Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and boy, do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
They got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughing him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
9 out of 10 judges prefer watching the Recovery Addict live stream in their court.
The fireworks are not done.
Now we're getting commentary on the case. Dahil mihi Anglican po, in
You will bring the jury.
Help! My camera crashed. Hang on, guys. Okay, we're gonna get this squared away. I need a new battery pack. Happy Hump Day Eve, or Taco Tuesday, as the case may be. Apparently, I can't leave my camera on all night long on the battery pack, or it will not work. All right, let's turn this down a little bit. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I'm the Recovery Addict. Thank you very much for being here. We're going to get my camera up and running here in just a second, and then it'll be good to go. But in the meantime, let's see, is it working? In the meantime, this is what we get right here. So let's see. It may decide to participate at a later point during the day. Oh, let's see. Wait. Something's happening. Look, it's working. Wait for it. I'll turn this on so you can see me. Aha! We have a camera. Beautiful. Now it's almost as if everything was working when we first started. Good morning. Good to have all of you here. Happy Tuesday to you. Yes, we're going to be back with the Maya case today. We're just checking to see when the latest and greatest starts. The judge said 8:30, but I've seen nothing so far. So maybe he was just kidding, or maybe the lawyers didn't pay attention. Whatever it was, but so far no bueno. We're gonna hold tight and see what happens this morning. Let's see. Is this it? Let's see. 2, 3, 4 days ago. No. Curated playlist. Let's try this one. Updated today. Where's the latest? Okay. Well, whoever that may be, we'll pick it up when it starts. We've got some things to deal with right now, here and now, that are more pressing than that. Like headroom on my camera for some reason. It's not working. Let's see. I need a power supply for my iPad. Everything's gone missing in my studio. It's been a rough morning, guys. It's Monday round 2 is what we're experiencing today. And apparently, it's not a terrible day for some people, because some people have birthdays. But first, before we celebrate that, we have to say congratulations, Kimar. You were first in chat this morning. First in chat comes with its punishment. I won't say it's a prize, Kim. You've been here long enough. You've done this enough times to know that it is a true punishment. And for being first in chat, we're going to send it to you with owning the internet and maintaining everything internet related worldwide. So we're just going to go ahead and publicly publish your contact information for all the world to call you anytime they have any problems with anything IT related. So, but you know how that goes. So I appreciate you being willing to step up and do that. Congratulations, Kimar, for being first in chat. Repeat offender. All right. We also have some birthdays today, and need to see. I saw 3. I saw 3 birthdays. Is that correct? I saw 3 birthdays. Let's see. We have Gone Girl, almost to gold. So thankful for y'all. So close. One more month, you'll have that yellow courthouse. It'll be awesome. Thank you so much for 5 months of support. Cachette, 8 months. Happy to be here on the way to 50,000 subs. Hit that like button. Cachette, we're going the wrong direction. We're going down on subs because a lot of people who joined for the manhunt are not true crime fans. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them. They don't have to be. But I appreciate the 17,000 people that joined us over the manhunt. But about 300 have now left. so we're seeing it go down slowly. I hope we stay above 40,000. That would, otherwise we'll just get two 40,000 sub celebrations. Ella Coles has been missing you a lot. Ella, good to have you here. Wonderful. Appreciate you. Thanks for 5 months of support as well. What's the punishment for repeat offenders? I think they like it. It's some people like being punished. I think the repeat offenders like being punished. That's all I can say. Let's see. Got a lot going on here. Let's see. Buttercup will be 11 months old tomorrow. That's awesome, Rebecca. Thank you very much for that. Congratulations in one day for that. Okay. I've been working with somebody on the burner phone. That's having some trouble with chat, thinking they're blocked, and I don't think they are. If you can hear me, and you are the one who I was working with, if you can tag me in a comment, because I'm not seeing you on a blocked list. Let's see. I'm just checking to watch. If you can tag me in a comment just to make sure I can see you, that would be the best. Let's see. Just checking everything twice here on my naughty and nice list. Ooh, I never saw that option before. Okay, you're not on the naughty list. I don't know what else to say. Make sure you're on your regular account. Please turn on our commands. Oh, I had the volume down on them. Are they working now? Can somebody try? Just one of you. Selena says, I might be blocked. I don't think so. I don't think it's you. Thank you very much. Look at this. Ella Cole gifted 5 memberships, kicking off this morning. Fanny Pack, Crafty Grandma, It's Just Me, Proud Mama, and Judy K. McGee all gifted memberships. That's wonderful. Let's see.
I'm not a camel.
Let me go back here. Just 1 second. We're going to find where we're at. I think. Scrolling and scrolling.
Don't miss the forest through the trees.
I apologize.
Now they're working. Okay, there we go.
Because he's the guy.
Is that correct?
All rise. Court is now in session.
How does he do that?
How does he do that? Sorry, I'm scrolling and I'm paying very close attention to something.
Alex stole it as well.
Got to do some research here. Sorry, guys. I think I should probably sing Happy Birthday before I forget.
Horse go unbeaten.
Letitia Stout sent it, or sorry, LS, not Ella, not Letitia Stout, but you're talking about Shabusiness? You're talking about Shabusiness? Is that the one? I know Brandy's covering that today on Brandy's channel. She's back from Comic-Con, and she'll be covering the sentencing. I think she starts at 10. Her broadcast starts in about an hour and 15 minutes. So she's going to be covering the sentencing on that one. She covered the whole trial as well. So highly recommend that if you're looking for a place to watch that. Let's see. Can you give your thoughts on the $200 million figure? Do you know how they will reach that? Did you know how they reached that number? I think it was 55 and 145 were the two splits on punitive and actual. I don't know exactly how they came up with that number, but I know they spent a lot of time coming up with that number. Yes, Brandy's going on at 10 for Shabusiness. Okay, here we go. Toxic, Golden Girl, and Sheena all have birthdays today. That's what we were looking for, and I'm going to go ahead and celebrate them appropriately, as we regularly do. La, 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 la. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Toxic, Sheena, and Golden Girl. Happy birthday to you. Toxic Orchid, Sheena, Golden Girl, congratulations on yet another birthday. It's always a wonderful benchmark to reach. Hopefully you're here for many more. But we realize there are many places you could be on your birthday, and you choosing to be here with us is never. There's a buffer sound during the birthday. What'd they do? Let's see.
Is that correct?
Let's see. Oh man, I also Rudy Patooty's twin sons Tom and Bob, but not Bob and Tom, because those are different. But Tom and Bob have birthdays today as well. Rudy Patooty, happy birthday to your twin sons, Tom and Bob. That's wonderful. Judge is on the bench. I'm just looking for the feed here. Just 1 second. We're gonna pick this up. I know it's a couple stations have it, but there's a certain source I'm trying to use, and let's see. There it is. Live now. There we go. Okay. We've got to turn off the birthday music because guess what? Work has started. Work has started.
The reason we don't have an objection to that. I'm sorry. Okay. I didn't indicate one way or the other. I apologize. All right,
okay. Court received the totality of Exhibit 2002.
We're arguing exhibits right now, so I don't think we've missed a whole ton this morning.
One moment, Your Honor. That's my grab here.
Maya's dressed in black this morning. I don't think the jury's here yet. I think the jury comes in at 9. Judge looks well rested. Looks like he slept at a Holiday Inn last night. He's on his A game. Oh, we need the objection counter. Yes. Let's do that. That's going to be. Oh man. Okay. This morning, my power flickered, and I should have saved this build, but I didn't. So I have to rebuild it.
One other relatively minor point, but important to the Kowalski children, is we need to get some kind of note from the court so that we don't have truant officers interrupting the trial for school to say that they are participating in the trial as parties. If that's okay.
we need a note from the judge to excuse the kids from school.
Do something like that, but my recollection is they're online or virtual learning. I don't know if you can time shift with that or not.
Do you need it? One moment, Your Honor, I'll ask.
He's asking Maya if she even needs a note. Maya, do you need a note to get out of class?
You're talking about stuff that is not
Court is correct that they do remote. However, there are different projects and assignments that are due, that are lengthy, and the teachers have requested something to indicate for their filing why they can extend a number of these assignments that are important to their grades.
Any objection from the defense?
Yeah.
I'll get something.
They're like, no objection. Okay, we need the objection.
I think that's it, Judge. We're ready.
Okay, so what are we doing about those exhibits that have not come in that you wanted to use this morning?
Well, I'd like to cover them if the court is amenable, beginning at 2011.
What? We've got about 12 minutes before 9 o'clock, so.
Let's use all 12 minutes litigating. They're discussing things right now.
I'll do Maya now. Maya, can you take the stand? I'm just going to ask about this.
Who just took the stand? Maya's taking the stand?
Yes, she needs to be sworn.
Maya's taking the stand for just a question about something. This is outside the presence of the jury. They're just asking something. I think she's going to be taking the stand today.
Good practice.
Yep.
State your name for the record.
Maya Kowalski,
And where do you live?
Venice, Florida.
And are you one of the plaintiffs in this action?
Yes.
And was there a period of time between October 7th, 2016 and January 14th, 2017 when you were kept at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital?
Yes.
During the course of that, did you from time to time write letters to your mother, your father, or your brother?
Yes.
Let me show you, if I may approach, Your Honor.
Okay.
What's been marked for identification, Trial Exhibit 2375, and ask you to identify whether you are the author of that.
Yes, I wrote the note.
And that is your handwriting?
Yes.
And so, although I don't see that it's dated, is it in any place?
It's not.
But do you recall that whether this was written during the course of your stay at Johns Hopkins?
It was written when I was
can you see that from what is written there, the descriptions?
Yes.
And in writing this, were you expressing your physical condition?
We're experiencing some...
It's a minor.
I'm going to sustain the objection.
Okay. What was the purpose involving? What, if any, involvement does the document reflect as to your mental, emotional, or physical condition? If you can look through it there.
Well, at the time, I desperately missed my family. I wasn't allowed to really have any contact with them. So in this document, I'm expressing how much I miss them. I was extremely depressed. And in the little, as far as physical-wise how I was doing, if you look, there's a heart. And in the heart is pictured my mom on the very far right, and my brother, me in the wheelchair, and then on the very far left would be my dad. So it's showing that I'm still sick.
Were you attempting at this point to address your health while in there?
Yes, but I couldn't explicitly state it.
Because what?
I couldn't explicitly state it because they wouldn't have sent the document.
Was that your intent, however?
Yes.
And did you state in there the status of your pain? I think it's in the top. Is mine? Can I see that up here? Or has the judge got that shut down? I gave away all my copies.
You can put it back on the screen.
This is laying. Ooh, wow! This is laying foundation for.
When you say not doing
evidence.
the best, but I'm hanging in there, what were you addressing?
I was trying to express that physically I wasn't doing very well. I was in a lot of pain with my CRPS. On top of that, I wasn't doing well mentally because, I was a kid and I was taken away from my family, so you could only imagine.
During this period of time was Dr. John Wassenauer your pediatrician?
Yes.
And through the course of your stay there, did it come to your attention that your parents from time to time would keep him updated?
I figured. I didn't know that entirely, but I could assume.
And did you trust your parents at that time, your mother or your father, to provide information to your pediatrician about your status during the period of time when you could not directly communicate?
Yes.
Your witness.
So the jury's not here. I'll need an explanation from somebody on this for what's happening right now.
Mr. Anderson, do you want to do it?
I'm sorry.
Hey, good morning, Maya.
Good morning.
He said you're witness and then he
Just
didn't
a
leave the
couple quick
podium.
questions. Do you know the date that this was sent?
I do not, I'm sorry.
Okay. And if I understand what you were telling the court, the purpose of this letter was to communicate with your mom, dad, and your brother?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know if Dr. Wassner ever came to see you at All Children's?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure, yeah. Do you know if a pediatrician ever came to see you at All Children's?
I believe he did not.
Thank you for your time.
Anything further?
Anything further from the court?
No, anything?
I do not.
Okay, Ms. Kowalski, if you could go ahead and see.
Thank you.
Any further argument on this? I guess we'll start with the defense.
So they're arguing this letter, and that's what the testimony was for.
Respectfully, Your Honor, the letter is self-explanatory. It's from Maya while she had a period of no contact due to DCF orders. It's written to her parents. It's not written to the doctor. It's not for the purpose of medical evaluation. I think it's self-explanatory. She wrote it because DCF precluded contact between her and her parents. So there's not a medical exception to this, and it's otherwise hearsay.
What about the state of mind exception?
It wouldn't be relevant to Dr. Wassner and to his testimony. I mean, this might come up again as to Maya's, but I don't understand why this would be relevant to an inquiry to be included within Dr. Wassner's records.
Well, at this point, I agree that there hasn't been enough shown for a 90.803 for purposes of medical diagnosis or treatment. It's quite possible that Dr. Wassner will say that he used it as such. But I do believe it would qualify and is the exception under 90.803 paren 3 than existing mental, emotional, or physical condition. So I don't have a basis to preclude its admission. So.
Move to admit.
Boom.
You want to talk to Dr. Wassner to see if the other basis is there as well, or
if it can be admitted, it's admitted.
I'm so sorry.
We covered during cross, Your Honor. I mean,
okay, then I'll receive Exhibit 2375 over defense objection.
Over intense objection.
I believe that's it. Well, no. We have 4 minutes. So there's a comprehensive med psych evaluation by Dr. Henschke. She is the psychiatrist. This is at 2011 for the record. I do not anticipate her testifying this week. So you're aware
Judge,
of
I
it.
think the issue is we objected to pages 8 through 13. We've discussed this quite some time ago with counsel. 8 through 13 is a letter written for the court and an affidavit that she did for the court. It's not part of her medical record. So we're objecting to pages 8 through 13 of the record.
Can you put 8 through 13 up real quick?
sure.
Okay, keep scrolling.
Virginia, this is a great question. The hospital gave certain information to CPS, and then CPS would return a confirmation of what the hospital requested. So there was a court order that came through CPS.
At this time, the court agrees
ordering the
that
parents to
pages
stay away.
8 through 13,
but the hospital sort of drove that in many ways.
2011 are not admissible. So, are you agreeing that the balance of 2011, except for those pages, can come in?
Your Honor,
Subject to.
Mr. Anderson and I just had a brief discussion about this. There are certain portions of it that
should we approve sidebar for this?
Wishes to redact. I won't say what they are, but I think it's something he and I need to talk about.
Okay, so I will not move it in. You all can figure out whatever needs to be redacted.
Right.
If we need to substitute out with the clerk.
You can mark it for identification at this point, Jeff. Before it goes in, there needs to be a substitution.
Once it gets marked for identification, then
you can't change it.
It can't be
Can we just hold off on this?
Well, let's approach sidebar so I can explain to the court a little bit well.
Is it something for today?
No.
Then let's not deal with it today. It sounds like the defense had a couple of issues they wanted to talk about before we brought in the jury.
Yes, Judge, we have advised counsel that we object to several of the witnesses that they have indicated they might call today, and I don't know if we want to address that now or later. I don't know if they're calling them or not. One is Meg Boland, and the other one is Alina Kirshner.
Objections are stacking up.
I don't think we're calling either this week. There's a possibility of Alina Kushner.
Today?
No.
Okay, well, they gave them as witnesses for today. We also, they indicated they want to play the deposition of Dr. Napolitano. We object to that. We don't think he fits within the requirements of the expert exception. And also, they left in, I'm sure inadvertently, but they left in a section that was sustained.
Well, I mean, I've already ruled on the Napolitanos, so if I sustain the objection, it needs to be cut from the video.
And other agencies have gone beyond in the way they
We didn't review it till 7 o'clock this morning, Judge, because we didn't get into it.
Indication in there?
We sent the video to them last night. We'll remove the part. We'll take another look and remove that. We're not playing that today.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
Unless we run short on time. So,
Judge, when we had asked who they're calling then today, because they've given us, like, those three were told, and they're not calling any of them. So we would like to know who they're calling, please.
I told Mr. Shapiro and
just tell me who you're calling.
All right, we've got Dr. Wassenauer this morning, and also Ms. Brown, who was a witness to Maya there in the hospital. This afternoon, then, we have Tishana Duncan and Father Jack Costello.
Father Jack. Priest is going to be here.
Were those names provided to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me ask, and I don't know if this is a Mr. Altenberg and a Mr. Elliott question. I don't see Mr. Elliott. Where are we on
works in many of those agencies.
the instruction that we talked about on
social
Friday?
Worker for 30+ years. She is now working to uncover the injustices for families they've destroyed and children they've let down.
Shorter version of it as well. I would be happy to talk about it sometime later today. I don't think you want to do that right now, but if you're also having the hearing tomorrow morning, I'm not quite sure how long or how much you want to cover. But I was sort of anticipating that they would tell me they want Mr. Elliott to handle it. He'll be there tomorrow.
My understanding is I can give you the morning.
It's important to try to get the ruling so we can get an instruction to the jury that we're not the ones that took her away. If we hear more of that today, I'm not
That's this lawyer that's talking there, the gentleman in the blue suit. That's his whole push. Is every time he talks, it's just to say, remember, it was CPS, it was the court, it wasn't the hospital.
For Dr. Duncan's testimony, I guess we'll hear whatever it is. I can give you the morning tomorrow.
Ella, thank you very much for that. I appreciate the insight there.
Given it for another case, the Manatee case. So.
Your Honor, we filed a response to that special instruction last evening.
Okay. Well, the clerk hasn't docketed it yet, so it sounds like that's something we can address tomorrow morning.
That's the clerk still working through the 1,000-page.
I think tomorrow morning is for that.
Anything else from the defense before we bring in the jury? And anything else from the plaintiffs?
Selena K., thank you for the 5 gifted memberships.
Saw that I ruled on the round 2 deposition designations, and so.
Well, when this comes up again, Judge, we can address that.
Okay.
Those went to Dale, Groovy Jill, Courtney Barnes, Kathy and Pam WV, and Jen Mitch.
I just was referring to, like, there was 10 depositions over the weekend I ruled on.
Yeah, and I was making reference to Napolitano was one of them.
I think that was the first batch. Wasn't Napolitano the first batch? Yeah.
Well, the jury's coming in. Let me see if I can speak a little bit to this.
All these depositions.
This case is a civil case.
You ready to bring in the jury?
We're ready, Your Honor.
Let's bring in the jury.
Okay. This is a civil case. The girl you see there, her name is Maya. Her brother Kyle and her father Jack are suing the hospital and the doctors for the treatment that Maya received, which they believe was mistreatment or malpractice. I'm not sure if they're going all the way to saying malpractice, but in the course of her treatment, the hospital suspected the family, specifically the mother, Maya's mother, of causing her illness. Munchausen syndrome or something like that. I apologize if I butchered that. So they contacted CPS and were able to get CPS to issue a court order preventing Maya from seeing her family. During that 3-month period where she couldn't see her family, her mother took her own life because of this, because she was the cause, according to the hospital,
I want to
and
confirm
that they
while
couldn't
you
meet
were
together.
away
So
for
the
this
lawsuit
3-day,
encompasses all those events,
weekend, you did
and
not
it's a
discuss this
$200
case
million
amongst yourselves.
lawsuit.
You did no investigation and you received no information. Is that all correct? Yes. Okay, did you all have a good weekend?
Yes. We did, Your Honor.
Mr. Anderson.
Dale.
Witness, please.
Thank you.
John Wassenauer.
Dr. Wassenauer is going to be the first witness today. We did see this morning Maya briefly take the stand to testify regarding an item, that letter that was admitted into evidence, the letter she wrote to her parents while in the hospital. And the circumstances of that letter were during the no contact period. So it's interesting. Michelle says, new to your channel, found it yesterday. Thanks for the coverage. Regarding comments about CPS, reminds me of the process, do no harm. I'm not saying that this is the case. This is a very complicated case. Michelle, you're not wrong. This is a very complicated case. And with 200 million reasons on the line, both sides are fighting very hard in this situation. The doctor brought his own box. I guess his files are substantial.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Christopher, I think we're going to see some testimony that will allege the hospital was taking actions beyond what the court order was, and then asking CPS to later basically validate it with an official email. I think that's what the allegation is getting at. But I do understand that they're mandated to do certain things.
Please state your name for the record.
John Wassner.
And have you been called here as the Kowalski's family doctor?
Yes, sir.
Essentially. And so have you treated then Maya Kowalski, Kyle Kowalski, and before her passing, Beata Kowalski?
I have.
Just curiously, have you ever treated Jack Kowalski?
Not to my knowledge.
So I'd like to get the jury to know a little bit about you. You grew up in St. Petersburg, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then attended St. Pete College and University of Florida?
Yes, sir.
And you did a mixed internship residency in pediatrics and internal medicine?
I did a dual combined residency in adult internal medicine and pediatrics.
And where did you do
University.
that? And where did you do that?
Duke University.
So these two specializations, can you tell the jury just a tiny bit about the two choices you made, pediatrics and internal medicine, what you wanted to do in your career?
Okay, so basically, the program is the same as a conventional pediatric program, an adult internal program. It just combines the requirements of both programs into an accelerated training, if you will. We have to sit for the same boards as straight adult internal medicine physicians do, and the same boards as straight pediatric physicians do. My original intention when I was making my way through medical school was to do pediatrics, but after an experience on an externship in the islands, I came back and Duke happened to send me a flyer on their program for internal medicine and pediatrics, and that's what I decided was for me, because I enjoyed the spectrum of seeing babies up to the geriatrics. It really appealed to me.
It's gratifying. And what are the additional or different attributes, qualifications in dealing with children over adults that you have noticed? And I'm speaking of this in terms of why you chose pediatrics.
Well,
that's
I was
bad question. Let me know. I'm known to ask.
A little confused. I always tell my patients and people who ask, why do you do that? I say it's the two ends, the young and the very old, that are similar. It's the people in between that are different, and so it's really not that much of a stretch. You just have to keep in mind where people are at this point in time in their growth and development.
And are you board certified in both?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you been board certified?
33 years.
And how long have you been in practice?
33 years.
So, so the jury knows, your group is called First Physicians of Sarasota? Is that
Yes,
right?
sir.
And is that part of Sarasota Memorial Hospital?
Yes, sir.
And through that, do you and do you still do your own pediatric hospital work?
Up until 2018, we admitted to both hospitals everything from pediatrics to adult internal medicine. Now the group, our inpatient work is limited to newborns.
How many years did you spend practicing in hospitals in the sense of admissions following patients there?
So that would be probably 28.
And over the course of your career, have you had the opportunity to treat patients
I think you went to
with
Duke
CRPS?
in Durham, North Carolina.
A couple of adult patients. Maya was my first pediatric patient.
Outside of CRPS, have you treated other chronic pain patients?
Absolutely, it's a big part of the practice.
And so, did there come a time that Maya Kowalski and the Kowalskis, Kyle, Maya, Beata, became patients of yours?
They in 2014, 2015. Yeah.
Yes. All right. And so, through the course, and do you continue to treat them to this day?
I do.
Approximately how often do you see them?
Depends on what's going on. Recently, maybe once or twice a year.
Okay. And then up until, let's say, the summer of 2015, how would you describe Maya's health?
It was good. She wasn't different than a lot of my other pediatric practice. She had asthma, she had some allergy issues, but that's pretty common in pediatrics.
Now, as a pediatrician, are you required by the state of Florida that if you see any signs of, confirmed signs of child abuse, that you have to report?
Absolutely.
Overruled. You can answer that question.
Sorry?
You can answer the question.
Yes, sir. I'm compelled to report it.
Tell the jury about Beata Kowalski from the times that you saw her and know her.
Brandy Churchwell's covering the Senate.
What was she like in your professional view
Brandy
as a mother?
In chat to get her link.
As a mother, she was very attentive, and I feel very loving towards her family and her children. Very concerned about them always when I saw her.
Did you ever see at any time any indications whatsoever that Beata Kowalski contained any signs, warning signs, troublesome indications that would indicate that she might be in any way abusive to either of her children?
No.
So then, as the care progressed, then did there come a time when Maya started to have unusual pain symptoms?
That was after her July admission, when everything started.
Okay. And so let's look at, if we can, 1066-003. And we can pull it up here for you, Doctor, I think. And the date of this, for the record, is a visit of September 2nd, 2015.
Yes, sir.
And we've got this before you here. So what was going on with Maya at this time, just generally?
According to my note, that this was a follow-up of a series of ER visits and hospital visits. She had asthma exacerbations and had been requiring steroids, and had actually been admitted to All Children's on July 7, 2015 with an asthma exacerbation.
Does it say there how long she was? And I'm not sure it does. I'm not suggesting that it does, but
She was discharged on the 11th, it says.
All right. So 4 days there at Johns Hopkins? All right. And so it says here she's had tremendous difficulties with pain control requiring high levels of analgesia. And did you see her then at this time and physically examine her on September 2nd, 2015?
Yes, I did examine her.
And what did the examination reveal, if anything?
Can you pop up to the next page, please?
Yes, that would help.
All right. That basically I did not have any focal findings on that particular time.
All right. Now, it says there, steroid-induced myopathy with severe intractable pain. Now, at this point, had anyone ID'd, if you will, CRPS?
No, sir.
Best of your knowledge. And had you seen Maya enough times at this point to be able, or strike that, had she expressed symptoms?
Oh, goody. We get glitches today, apparently. We're waiting. We have a technical difficulty coming from the courtroom. Audio's still on, so we're not going to miss anything as soon as it is restored. Just 1 second here. The feed is crashing. Looks like everything's good on my end. I've got great signal on the internet, so I think it is on the send side from the court. Dr. Matrimi, give me that note back. You have to rewind and pause. That's all I can say. Weather issues in Florida today, that may be causing some of the issues we're having here. It's glitching pretty badly. They'll get it sorted out before my ears die. Turn the volume down just a tiny bit because it's pretty painful. So this is what we're seeing from court right now. Yay, freeze frames. I will say, for those that are asking, the Taylor Shabusiness trial, the sentencing goes on today. And if it's something you would like to watch, Brandy Churchwell, who's a good friend of the program and has an amazing YouTube channel herself, is going to be covering that live. She starts in about 40 minutes. The live stream. She's got the placeholder up already, so you might want to go over and click on that link. If you type !Brandy, that's BRANDI, in chat, that'll give you her link. You can click on it straight from chat and pop over there. That would be awesome. And make sure while you're there, tell her thank you for being amazing and congratulations on reaching 10,000 subscribers. The mailbox case, Natalie, yes, not guilty on both counts. Jury came back after just a couple hours of deliberations right before our podcast. I think we covered that on the podcast stream last Friday. So we're struggling with the feed here. I'm going to see if we've got some other options. Let's see. This feed is awful. We're going to try to get something for you. Just 1 second.
And Valium, which is a benzodiazepine, which is a muscle relaxant and tranquilizer.
Now, were those medications prescribed to her before she came to you? The oxycodone and the...
Not to my knowledge.
So, and then she says she has recently been listed with glasses as she has been continuing having...
diplopia, which is double vision.
And visual disturbances. Now, prior to this, was there any sign that Maya had these conditions, or was this the first onset?
This is the first that I was aware of it.
And in your review, did it come to your attention that this is, in fact, one of the symptoms of CRPS?
In my subsequent reading, I was aware that it falls within the spectrum of CRPS, yes, sir.
All right, and so then, again, this is a carry forward on the next page, which is 0006. And again, it's carrying forward the same history of mood and behavior disturbance. But from this visit, again, did you see any signs whatsoever that Maya was actually exhibiting these, as opposed to moving forward a previously made diagnosis?
No, sir, I did not see any signs, and I need to make people aware that when I do these impressions at the bottom, and a lot of that is for my purpose of keeping in the back of my mind as things roll forward what they've been through and what might enter into their care in the future. So I will tend to try and list significant problems, even if they aren't presently active at the time.
Now, if you are going to reach a, and I'm not sure if it's called a working diagnosis or a current diagnosis, can you explain to the jury what a differential diagnosis process is?
Okay, so Maya's complaints at the time were very unusual. In her extreme pain, it was difficult to manage. And so when you get that, you start running through your mind. Anytime you're talking to a patient, you're kind of listening to what symptoms they're having, what history they're giving, and you're kind of going through your mind, ruling things out or saying, no, this is still a possibility. And so when someone comes to you with terrible pain, history of weakness, you think about things like peripheral neuropathy, which is a nerve malfunction or damage. You think about rheumatoid conditions there are things called juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, which can give you pain and inflammation and disability. You think about Guillain-Barré, which is an ascending paralysis. So you're kind of, while you're talking to these people, you're kind of working through things, saying, okay, this needs to stay back there, and this, keep working it and seeing what happens. As I'm sure you'll get to at some point in the court proceedings, the complex regional pain syndrome is an unusual and uncommon medical condition that we don't understand especially well as far as what causes the symptomatology. We do suspect some autoimmune factors in it, but it is not something that I can do a blood test or I can do a CAT scan or some other test to say, okay, bam, she's got it. Okay, so experts.
Did he say bam?
In the past, when this was first described in the late 1800s and pediatrics, 1970s, I think. But because it didn't have a hard and fast blood test you could do, or a CAT scan or an X-ray or something like that, a symposium of experts convened to try and standardize the description for complex regional pain syndrome so that they can make progress studying it and evaluating treatments for it, because you can't have everybody doing different things for something that's similar but doesn't fall into that category. So
what was the name of that?
The Budapest criteria was done, I believe, in 2010, and they came up with a series of requirements that this person needed to meet in order to be categorized to have complex regional pain syndrome. And then that's very important because if you're studying treatments and you're studying outcomes and how they do over time, you have to have a similar population of people. And this is an unusual condition. There's not a lot of it that, there's not massive numbers of it running around. So if you want to study a rare condition, you have to make sure that your definitions are pretty strict and you're studying a similar group. So that's what they attempted to do with the Budapest criteria.
Okay.
Sorry, that was a long-winded answer.
No, it's informative. I want to go back for a moment to the issue over who first prescribed the oxycodone. Let me show you and the jury what's been previously marked into evidence as 1008-, is it 4? And if you can look down there.
You're going to have to bring your glasses. That's tiny.
And I'm not sure if it's on this page.
Discharge, yeah, I see it. This patient was discharged on PO, Valium, oxycodone, Tylenol, ibuprofen.
And to your knowledge, was this her first opioid prescribed?
To my knowledge.
And this was by whom?
I'm assuming this is an all children's discharge.
Yes, it's an all children's. So, now, let's turn then to a couple months later, November 5th, 2015, and that's it previously admitted into evidence 1066-0007. This is your visit, as I say, November
turn the lights out on us.
2015, so you're about, what, just less than a month later. So tell the jury what's going on here.
Okay, I'm got a blank screen right at the moment.
That makes it hard.
It's like absolutely nothing is going on here.
It's 100-.
What was the date?
10. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. It's 1066-0007. And I can put it up on here.
We back up here just a tiny bit.
There we go. Okay. And is this your note?
This is my note.
What's happening now with Maya, and then we'll get into her family.
All right. So I go on to note that she was hospitalized at All Children's from October 20th to October 23rd with abdominal pain.
Was this then the second admission, to the best of your knowledge?
To my knowledge, yes, sir.
Okay. Go ahead.
They worked her up for abdominal pain. They said she was noted to have obstipation, which is a fancy name for severe constipation. On workup, they put a tube down her nose into her stomach to assist the treatment of that condition. And she was giving something called Miralax, which is commonly used to resolve the condition.
So the jury is aware. This is before the Mexico visit, is it not?
To my knowledge, yes, sir.
In these civil suits,
so
there's no privacy.
5th,
all sorts of details, medical details are revealed.
Obstipation, that means that Maya was suffering from severe constipation right there?
That's what their assumption was, but as we can get into at some point, she has had ongoing abdominal complaints across time, of which there were some objective findings that I don't think that was the whole answer, is the long and the short.
Okay. All right. And so then she is seen by another pediatric GI. I'm trying to skip ahead here.
Okay.
And then it says there's something about the parents. Can you tell the jury what was going on with Mr. and Mrs. Kowalski?
So they were frustrated with the GI visit in that they didn't feel that her symptoms were being addressed. And I made the comment that Jack and Beata were taking turns attending Maya at night as her sleep was greatly disturbed and she would wake up with pain requiring the attendance of her parents. So both parents were having their sleep significantly shortened and attenuated by the ongoing symptoms.
Were the parents under stress at this point?
Absolutely.
And is that an unusual state for parents of a child with a painful condition?
Absolutely not. Any parent who's seen their child suffer and feels like they haven't gotten adequate resolution or control of that is going to be extremely stressed until that situation is met.
Now, underneath the current medications, can you tell the jury whether, and on the next page, plan, it also talks about, what I'm trying to inform the jury of is what meds were you and what meds did you receive back from that had been previously described by All Children's or someone else?
Okay, so there's quite an extensive list of medications at the time I saw her on November 5th. Basically all those, she came to me with those from other physicians. The only change I made was to put her on a more powerful acid blocker to try and get her some improved control of her GI symptoms.
And again, at this point, any signs of conversion or factitious disorder or any other psychiatric, psychological problem?
Not by my account.
Let's then go to what's been previously marked into evidence as 1066-0009. For the record, Your Honor, this is a visit of December 17th, 2015, again about a month and a week after the last one. So, what's going on here now?
Okay, so now she has come back to me from her trip to Monterrey, Mexico, where she underwent the ketamine-induced coma for 5 days. And mother had reported that she had significant improvement following that treatment.
And I take it that you knew she was going to do the Mexico trip before they went?
Yes, sir.
And from your research, what were your thoughts of Maya undergoing this? And first, let me ask you, in your review, did it appear that Maya had already been treated with the typical, if you will, first stage treatment of CRPS by this point?
I'm not sure of the actual question, so why don't we start with
It may not have been a question. What I'm trying to get at is, what, if any, investigation did you do in looking at whether Maya's trip to Mexico was warranted from prior care?
So, basically, Maya had been tried on the usual things that pain management does, and we do a significant amount of these conventional things in primary care, use of different non-narcotic pain medications, things called like tramadol, and I think the ketorolac, and I see a clonidine in there. At one point she was on things called gabapentin. So they had really run through the usual list of things that we try outpatient for pain control.
And had she been through the regimen of OT, PT?
Yes, she'd been trying that all along.
Mm-hmm. And for the jury, what are those, OT, PT?
Oh, sorry, yes. Occupational therapy and physical therapy. They try and improve her conditioning and use of her extremities and try and prevent long-term damage or contractures and loss of use. One thing I should say is that when you have difficult to treat conditions that aren't responding to usual modalities, it's not unusual for parents to seek other options and other treatment, especially if they see their child is having ongoing pain, it's not being adequately controlled by the medical establishment. So I'm not surprised. I have a lot of motivated parents that, you know, start doing research, start contacting institutions and things to see, okay, the conventional stuff isn't working, what else do we have? And so that by itself isn't unusual.
And what was Beata's profession?
She was a registered nurse, specifically trained in IV infusions.
From your interaction with her, did she appear to have a good, bad, working, or excellent, strike it, how would you describe her medical knowledge for an RN of her experience?
So Beata is a very intelligent, assertive female with an excellent knowledge base. And sometimes medical professionals push back against that. But she knew what she was talking about. She was very smart.
And so there's been some testimony about risk factors in this type of treatment, the one in Mexico. What, if any, concerns did you have, and how did you resolve it? Within your mind as a attending pediatrician for the family.
Well, it's definitely an unusual line of treatment that certainly I hadn't had previous experience with. So, you know, I know that the parents were looking to help their little girl, and that they had tried all the usual things, and so they were going after this. If I can expound on a moment, ketamine has been used. Ketamine is now used in a wide variety of.
Hold on, Doc.
Sir.
You kind of need to wait for a question.
Okay, sorry.
This treatment involved ketamine. Can you explain to the jury a little bit about how your knowledge of ketamine influenced any advice you gave to the family?
Yes, Your Honor, calls for a narrative answer.
Overruled on that one. You can answer.
Can you, I'm sorry, rephrase it one more time?
Sure. Can you tell the jury, insofar as the advice you were giving the parents about this, how your knowledge of ketamine and whether that influenced it?
I did not have adequate experience with the use of ketamine in that particular circumstance to give them a good background one way or another as far as whether it would be helpful. But I had heard of a wide variety of uses for ketamine in the past, IV ketamine.
And was there a physician involved who did have experience in these?
That definitely falls into the purview of pain management specialists, especially if they're trying to complete or treat something like complex regional pain syndrome.
And had she been to Dr. Kirkpatrick by that time?
Yes, sir.
And in your professional opinion, did Dr. Kirkpatrick have the necessary history, training, and specialization to advise the family in that?
Yes, sir.
Objection, Judge Locke, foundation.
Overruled that objection.
So now, can you explain a little bit about ketamine and how it functions in this CRPS venue to the jury?
I am not an expert on the use of the pathophysiology.
How about what is the history of ketamine as a treatment?
Ketamine is used.
Yes, Your Honor, it's a lack of foundation. There's no knowledge or expertise been demonstrated.
Why don't you show more foundation?
Yes, sir. So through the course of your practice, have you had the opportunity to follow patients who have been through surgeries?
Yes, sir.
And have those surgeries involved sedation using ketamine?
Yes, sir.
And through the need to understand the patients, have you had the opportunity to perform research or otherwise inquire to ensure you had adequate knowledge of the function of this drug?
It came up during my training as far as pharmacologic teachings, but nothing extra on top of that.
While not an expert in it, are you familiar with the basics of ketamine insofar as its general uses in medicine?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask again. Can you give the jury a bit of an overview of the uses of ketamine in treatment of various diseases?
So obviously we're here talking about ketamine to be used in complex regional pain syndrome, It's also been used in induction. It's also been used, induction of anesthesia. It's also been used in refractory depression that hasn't responded well to other of our conventional medications. And that one, actually, you can get IV infusions of ketamine and Sarasota now for refractory depression by,
all right,
trained specialists. And so it's not uncommon.
Is it FDA approved for that use now?
I believe it is for depression.
And so the use of ketamine in this instance to treat CRPS, what is the term off-brand or off-label?
Off-label.
What can you explain to the jury what that means?
So frequently in medicine, a drug is originally approved for a very specific indication. Say, for instance, amitriptyline was originally approved for depression. We don't use it that much for depression anymore because it's not great for that. We have better drugs, but we use it off-label for sleep disturbance. We use it for recurrent headaches. We use it in pain management. So a lot of times a drug was approved for a specific indication by the government, the FDA, and later on through research and trial and error and things, it gets used for other conditions that originally it wasn't studied for. Most companies don't go back to the FDA and get those specific approvals because that's an expensive process and very time-consuming and expensive.
All right, going back to the visit then, 1066-009, you noted that, quote, skin lesions she was suffering from have resolved. Tell us about Maya's skin lesions and the relationship to CRPS.
Well, one of the things that is described in CRPS is these nonspecific lesions that are on their extremities that sometimes can correlate with the activity of the disease, but to my knowledge, to present understanding, these lesions aren't definitive proof, so I can't biopsy these lesions and say, okay, that's a CRPS lesion. They've been noted by other clinicians to occur during the course of the disease, but at this point of our understanding, they do not help you nail the diagnosis, if you will.
Were her lesions improving?
Well, they had, I didn't comment on my note there that there was anything unusual for me to see, so by definition, they must have improved.
But she had had skin lesions apparently before going to Mexico?
That's my understanding.
And this is after Mexico or before?
This one's after.
Okay. All right. And after Mexico, can you tell the jury whether she had improvement in her asthma?
Yes, she did have improvement in her asthma, and that is one of the things that her pulmonologist had commented on, that ketamine is sometimes useful for relieving bronchospasm and helping control asthma, so it has had a little side benefit there.
As to the latest research on the relationship of different skin lesions to CRPS, would you defer to the CRPS experts?
Absolutely.
And so it says still in a wheelchair but can be touched and examined more readily than before. Can you explain to the jury what allodynia is insofar as Maya's CRPS and why this is important?
Okay, so that's a very important thing to appreciate, because until you've seen it on a patient, it's very striking. So allodynia is another fancy name for saying that a slight or a light touch, a normal touch, if you will, causes severe pain in an individual. So a light brush can cause excruciating pain. And it is one of the factors that's in the definition or criteria for CRPS by the Budapest criteria. It can occur in other conditions. I have another patient who had a cervical spine injury that had severe allodynia. And if you haven't seen it before, and I think that's part of the problem where some of these physicians, when they are assessing Maya, you think, well, this person's carrying on, they're being histrionic, they're exaggerating, okay? Because it doesn't initially make sense to you as, oh, all I did was barely touch her, and she, jumped back and carried on. And for those people, it's a real thing. It's a real, it's not a fake. At some point, they'll talk to you about the McGill pain score developed by a famous Canadian medical university, assessing different levels of pain attributed to different conditions. And it's very near the top. It's a difficult
response to the question.
What is the McGill pain scale?
It is a scale developed at McGill University to show levels of pain attributed to various conditions.
Do we have that readily, or can we find that? If we can't, we can wait and move on. And then if you'll let us know an exhibit number before we display it.
It's not.
That's not an exhibit yet? We'll hold off. Okay. So then you saw her again on February 22nd, 2016. I think we'll skip ahead of the interest of time on that one. And then go to what's been previously marked in evidence 1066-0013, which is your visit of April 1st, 2016. All right. So tell the jury what's happening here under a history of present illness.
Okay, so she had been getting, this is April 2016, she had been getting ketamine infusions 3 to 5 times a week for the month of March and was having physical therapy. At that time, she had had a port placed in her left lateral chest.
By whom?
All Children's, I believe.
By
explain
Johns
to the
Hopkins, All
jury what a
Children's?
port is and what they use it for real quick. It's just a device planted underneath the skin. We frequently use, say, in chemotherapy for cancer patients or for children who have blood conditions that require frequent laboratory studies or treatments. So it's a little device that's inserted underneath the skin. It has a tube that goes into their circulation. It makes access easier for their treatments.
And this was placed by Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital?
Yes, sir.
All right. And so you say here to schedule to get some IVIG treatment. What is that?
Okay, intravenous immune globulin. So basically that's a product that's used in medicine, purified form of a protein that's important in the immune system. IVIG has a wide variety of uses. Even in neurologic conditions, we use it to treat Guillain-Barré, which is the ascending paralysis condition. And in children who have immune deficiency and are susceptible to infections, we use it in that circumstance. So it has and actually there was a paper that they used IVIG specifically with.
Objection, Your Honor, the medical literature being used to bolster.
He hasn't identified it and he hasn't stated it.
Overruled that objection. You can continue.
Go ahead.
There is a paper that wrote about the use of IVIG in CRPS.
All right, and then it says here in the middle of present illness, her appetite is variable, but she looks better. Can you tell the jury from what you recall, how did Maya look better? What was significant to you, if anything?
Just that she had looked physically feeling better than on her previous visits with me.
Mm-hmm. More talkative, more movement, a little better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then under impressions, your number one impression was? at the bottom?
CRPS.
Okay. Now let's move then to what's been previously marked in evidence as 1066-0015. And for the record, this is a visit with you of August 11th, 2016. So now we're 4 months later. And how's Maya doing now? She's some, 9 months post-Mexico.
Okay, so she's doing her physical therapy in the pool 3 days a week. Make the remark that she's made significant progress. At the time, she was getting the IVIG treatments and scheduled to start ketamine treatments again.
And it also says she'd finished 40 hyperbaric treatments in mid-July. Do you know whether the Kowalskis were looking for other treatments to supplant the ketamine at this time?
They were investigating various options to try and bolster her and get her better, and that was one of them.
And ketamine treatments were fairly expensive, or do you know?
They're expensive.
So was this an attempt to find a more...
Objection, Your Honor. This calls for speculation of the state of mind of someone.
Well, I haven't finished the question.
Okay, well, let's let him finish the question, but let's make sure it's not speculation.
I'll rearrange. What, if anything, was their goal in using the hyperbaric and the IVIG insofar as the continued use of the ketamine?
What did I think about the treatments of the IVIG?
I'll withdraw. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
All right. So at this point, what's her weight there? Under physical exam?
29.4 kilos.
Okay. So what does it say there in this first paragraph under history? How is her appetite? It's a less.
About the August 2016 visit?
Yes, sir. Under the history of present illness, that first paragraph, last sentence.
Appetite was good, and she had a good weight gain.
All right. So overall, now 9 months after the Mexico treatment, what was your impression of how Maya was doing insofar as her CRPS and overall health?
It was progress.
Let's then go to February 22nd, 2016. Let me see, am I out of the... No, sorry. I think we've already been through that. Yeah, we've already done that one. One moment. All right. So I'd like to talk a little bit about Maya's weight before and after she went into Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital on that October 7th, 2016 through January 14th, 2017 visit. We're here about...
Hold on, I'm listening to Dr. Wassenaar. Dr. Wassenaar just pulled out some files.
Yes.
Okay.
I told counsel he was bringing his files, and we previously marked into evidence the one that we're going to use, which I'll reference now, Your Honor.
Hang on.
It's 2792.0-001. And then, Dr. Wassenaar, if you have other records that confirm this chart, let us know as we ask questions. But if we could bring up 2792-001 for the jury.
Be kind, Tiger. Thank you very much. 5 gifted memberships went to Mary Murphy, Connie Munster, Smokey O'Leary, Cheryl Bybee, and Sunny Florida Mom.
Yeah. Can you explain what this is?
Okay. So in pediatrics, we use growth charts for height and weight, pretty standard from the time they're newborn up until 18. It's basically a graph constructed from measurements over thousands of children. It's standardized. The bottom of the graph is the 5th percentile, the top on this particular one, 97th percentile. Anything between the top and the bottom of the graph is considered normal. The dark line in the middle is considered the median, the 50th percentile. In pediatric, we use it to assess for deviations in the patient's condition. So, for instance, if we get an infant that's failing to thrive, that they're following a particular line on the growth chart, and suddenly they're falling off that line, they're falling below, or conversely, if it's going up, then that's your cue to ask more questions, do more investigations, what's going on, that they're falling off their growth curve.
Now, did I ask you to go back and look at weights of Maya immediately before she went in to Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital on October 7th, 2016, and your next visit immediately after her January 14th, 2017 visit?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the jury what your findings were?
Basically, that the weight in August of 2016 was 64.8 pounds, and when she came out, she was 64.6 pounds, so no real change.
But she'd actually gone down 0.2 pounds?
Yes, sir.
So there's been a representation here that Maya gained weight during her visit. From your records, is that confirmed or rejected?
By my records, by my scales that we normally weigh her on, she was essentially the same or slightly less.
No significant gain at Johns Hopkins from your weights?
Objection, Your Honor, leading.
What, if any, weight gain at Johns Hopkins was reflected, if any?
Nothing was reflected as far as gaining weight.
Okay. Tell us about Kyle now. There was an allegation raised about Kyle Kowalski and failing to thrive or malnourished. Can you tell the jury about Kyle's...
Can I object to the predicate, Judge? There's an allegation
That's
being quoted I'm not aware of.
Sustained. Let's just ask questions without the commentary.
Tell us about Kyle's weight.
Kyle's been a pretty healthy guy, and I don't get to see him very much. And he looks, like a lot of my other teenage males, long and slender, and can probably eat you out of house and home. So I don't have any concerns regarding Kyle.
Got it. Now, did there come a time that... Hang on one moment. Let me see. I wanted to continue on then to 1066-10017. And this is a visit, January 18th, 2017.
I was hoping for a pause.
Noting for the record that Maya had left Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital on the 14th. Now, if you would, just review that again. It's 1066-007.
I was going to say, Ella Cole, thank you for your super chats earlier today. You offered, if somebody wanted some in-depth discussion on some of these issues involving CPS that really don't work very well in chat here on YouTube, that Discord was an option you could be reached over there. I appreciate that. We're going to try to keep things just on the court here. I realize there are a lot of experiences, but if everyone tries to share everything in depth, chat gets a little crazy. So I encourage Discord for those great civil conversations that are enlightful.
And that they were accused of Munchausen by proxy and labeling the child as having a fictitious disorder or a conversion disorder.
Again, had you ever seen any signs of that as the family pediatrician?
No.
How was Maya doing physically after the ministrations of Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital?
Not great, but she was grateful to be out of the hospital.
Okay. And it says that in the middle there, Maya continues to have great difficulties and is in worse physical shape than what she went in.
Yes, sir.
You see that? Was that your observation at the time?
My observation.
And then it says, prior to her being admitted, she was able to push herself around in the house with a wheelchair and do transfers back and forth from the chair to the wheelchair. And was she able to do that now that she'd been in there for 3.5 months?
She was much more sensitive to the pain.
Did it appear that the CRPS had improved or gotten worse from your perspective?
Worse, my opinion.
Then at the bottom, the third line or fourth line up from the first paragraph, history of illness, did you note some scattered lesions on her arm?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Can you tell the jury whether these appear to be substantially the same as the lesions that you had noted prior to her going in to Johns Hopkins? Did they look the same, generally the same as the ones you'd seen?
Yes, sir.
All right. And so she is going then to see a specialist in Rhode Island?
Yes, sir.
And by this point, her mother's passed?
Yes, sir. She passed on January 7th.
All right. Now, I want to ask you, if we can, about the time period when the Kowalskis went in on October 7th. Over this period, those first few days at Johns Hopkins, what, if any, contact did you have with anyone there?
I received a call from a resident physician from All Children's just asking some basic questions about her condition.
And how long was the phone call, would you say?
A few minutes.
And during that phone call, did he explain to you that they were questioning her CRPS diagnosis?
No, that was not made clear in my conversation with them.
Did they ask you anything about your knowledge or your basis of knowledge as to whether there was any history indicative of Munchausen by proxy?
No, sir.
Did they ask you for any information about your knowledge of whether you saw any signs in Maya of conversion disorder or factitious disorder?
No, sir.
Did it surprise you when you learned what was actually going on?
Yes, very much.
Your Honor, surprise, irrelevant.
I'm sorry, what's the legal basis?
Irrelevant.
Overruled.
And can you tell the jury what's wrong with this picture? In other words, if it is, what are your concerns with the level of investigation with you under these circumstances?
If you're considering a patient having conversion disorder or Munchausen by proxy, in which someone is inflicting harm on a patient, it can be a very difficult thing to establish, and so you need to talk to multiple physicians and multiple individuals to get their perspective on, you basically get all the information, basically seeing, does this have basis, does this have merit? And it's very difficult. The consequences are high if you get it wrong, if you accuse somebody of it, and it's not the case, it's a terrible thing. If you have a case and they miss it, and the child goes on to be, subject to this, it's also a terrible thing. So it's very important that you utilize all the information at hand, and you certainly, in the articles I've read, talking to the primary care physician is one of the big components of that.
And are you, through those conversations?
Hold on one second, Mr. Anderson.
May we approach?
You may.
Another objection there. We're not going to hear what it was, but let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to get everything lined up here. What he just said was very important, and you're right. His testimony right now is key. He's talking about, as a doctor, the importance of, when you have suspicions of somebody being harmed by a parent, especially with this type of syndrome they're talking about, Munchausen, you have to be careful. But you can't be too careful so that you don't take any action. You've got to it's a very fine line you walk in, and if you're wrong on either side, the impact is massive and terrible. So he says his testimony basically, he was surprised by the small amount of investigation that seemed to be taking place with his involvement, where he would have thought that if the hospital had suspicions along these lines, there would have been a much further investigation, especially with people who had a long history and background medically, knowledge of the patient. So you can tell that's why there are some strong objections here, because it's one doctor basically calling out the other doctors, saying that's not how we operate, and that's not the right thing to do. So this is quite impactful and a key point of the case. If you accuse someone, you darn well better have proof, right? And if you have proof and you don't make the accusation, you're in all sorts of legal water as well. So it's a delicate little balance they walk. I would say, I think I'm asking the question honestly. The defense attorney, I'm curious if he has a medical condition with his neck. He does not appear to be able to turn his head to the left. And I think that might be some of what we perceive as a very dry presentation, is that he's very stiff, literally, that he might have a condition that makes it difficult to turn his head. I'm not diagnosing him remotely. It's just that's just what I've observed. Right. Yes, my Doug Clover. They're required. They're mandated reporters. They have to report if they know of abuse. The problem lies in where there are illnesses that present symptoms similar to what may show up in abuse, and knowing what is abuse and what isn't, and making that call is a very delicate and important decision to make. And gratefully, I'm not a doctor, so I have not had to sit in that position. It's not an enviable one. Right, Ella, what the testimonies we're getting from this doctor right now, and what's being objected to quite a bit, is that the doctor on the stand, the witness on the stand, is basically saying this investigation, if they were looking into that, it seemed to be quite weak.
I'm going to direct that you disregard that last answer, and I'm going to sustain the objection. I'm going to remind you that the court has already determined that there was a good faith basis for the call to the Central Abuse Hotline. Now, Mr. Anderson will be allowed to ask follow-up questions relative to the standard of care, though. Mr. Anderson.
Leaving aside anything about the court order to the initial two calls, but just dealing with the standard of care here for pediatricians in this situation. What is the standard of care in terms of contacting the prior treating physicians, including the attending pediatrician?
It would be my hope that would be mandatory.
And what are the risks if the doctor of the hospital, in this instance, fails to contact the prior treating physicians?
Then you're at risk of making a grave mistake, and child protection team is a difficult. It's a difficult.
We'll stay away from that.
Okay. So there's no question pending, and whoever's cell phone's going off in the audience, let's turn it off, please.
Busted.
I'm sorry, rephrase the question.
He's going to ask you a different question.
Yes. Okay. Now, prior to this, did I ask you to review the records of Maya's liver function? And those are related, among others, in 1066-38 through, and we don't have to pull these up, it's just for the record.
Your sensitivity is admirable. Thank you as a mother of a child who died and was frustrated with her medical care. This is
that the end of the question?
Yeah, not yet. I'm trying to make sure I get the record straight here. Among others, 1066, 38, and 39. But did I ask you to review Maya's chart insofar as her liver functions around the time that she returned from Mexico and from there on during the ketamine treatment?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a clarification of where these records he's been asked to review come from?
Please do that.
Yes. Have you, all right, through the course of your care and treatment of Maya, did many of the providers provide you with their notes and test results?
I saw the lab results performed by Dr. Kirkpatrick and Dr. Hanna on occasion and saw their liver function test, yes, sir.
And your chart, does it not, reflects notations from, among others, Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital and from Tampa General Hospital, does it not? And if you have...
My recollection, sir.
Okay. And from Sarasota General.
Yes, sir, but I don't have those open in front of me right now.
Okay. Well, for example, as to, I think this is Sarasota. Yes, Memorial at 1066-0038 to 1066-0039. And on to 1066-0040, 1066-0041, 1066-0042, 43.
Is there a question, Mr. Anderson?
Yes, I wanted to make sure I had the record clear of what was in evidence, Your Honor. Based on your review of the records provided to you, the blood work done on Maya Kowalski, first, did she have any issues insofar as cholesterol or other typical issues?
I had seen a blood result. I don't have it in front of me, and I can't tell you when it was that she had high cholesterol at one point.
Okay.
I'm looking at this lab report from 6/18/19. It shows essentially normal liver function tests.
Okay. And working backwards then, in your review, did you see any indications that the ketamine treatment was causing any damage or problems to her liver?
No, sir, I did not see that.
If Maya had had any difficulties with cognitive function as a result of her ketamine treatments, did you see, and I'm just asking this, I don't know, and did you see her enough times to be able to tell if she was displaying some?
I never saw any evidence of cognitive dysfunction with Maya.
There was a medical referral form, and I think this one, make sure I've got the date here. I believe it's at 1066-0097, the one immediately before or during the period of time of relapse. Let's pull it up and see if we got the right one here. This is in evidence and part of his record, Your Honor. All right. Now, did there come a time on a medical referral form where you had written to the school board various reasons why Maya should stay in her homeschooling program rather than going back into school? This is before the Johns Hopkins admission.
Okay. Yes, and I've done this in a number of circumstances with other children with chronic medical conditions. It was my opinion that in this circumstance, with her complex medical history and the things she'd been going through, that she was best served by continuing her hospital homebound status, meaning that teachers would come and work with her at home, and that way she could go get her treatment, she could get physical therapy, she could get the things that she needed to do. And it was my opinion that she would be best served by doing this.
So, for instance, where at least one of them reflects that some of the medications that Maya takes may cause some lack of function. Was that because you're actually observing it, or because the school board needed some reasons why?
The school board needed a reason. It wasn't I'm trying to work within the parameters they give me. The medications that she was on, in theory, could have caused difficulties, but I did not witness those.
Was this was this just the family asked you to help them, and you were trying to help them with?
Yes.
All right. Now, I noticed also in your records you received several notes from Johns Hopkins, both before and after the Mexico trip. And I'd like to take you through one before and one after. There is one which has been previously marked into evidence as 1066-0103. And this is from Dr. Tony Kreisman. It's dated August 17th. Maybe that's the wrong one. Let me make sure I've got the right one. Okay, let's show instead, wrong year, sorry about that, Exhibit 1066-106 and 1066-0107. So it's 0106, 0107. First, on dash 01006, at this time, how many medications did Dr. Kreisman at Johns Hopkins note that Maya had?
There's 17 on her medication list.
The record speaks for itself. He's asking for an opinion regarding another witness's record.
Let's just go with legal basis. I'm going to sustain the objection.
Predicate.
Still sustained.
Okay. All right. And so, does it reflect there that Dr. Kreisman was noting that Maya was receiving ketamine infusions?
Same objection.
At the top? This is part of his file. It's a note.
I'll overrule this one, but we're not going to read the entire file here.
No,
okay.
I don't plan to. All right. And does it indicate also that she had begun hyperbaric oxygen therapy?
Yes, sir.
If you look then on the next page, can you tell us the note from Dr. Kreisman back to you under the physical examinations, what he was reporting to you in terms of, let's see.
Same objection, Judge. Apparently we need to approach.
Do we need to approach Mr. Anderson because I'm going to sustain the objection?
Judge, I'm just asking him whether he was advised by the hospital on a particular point.
Sustain the objection. Let's move on.
So how is Maya doing of late? Strike that. Did there come a time after she left Johns Hopkins that she had a relapse of her CRPS?
She had a period where her weight went down dramatically, and she again developed pain in her extremities.
And was it necessary then to hospitalize her?
It became necessary to hospitalize Maya when all our measures trying to get her weight up and to treat her effectively as an outpatient failed. And we were very sensitive to the fact that the last thing that Maya and her family wanted to do was go back in the hospital, and we tried as long as we could until it was clear we were at a dangerous point that we needed to hospitalize.
Did Maya want to go in or not go in?
She didn't want to go in.
And did this involve a feeding tube?
Yes, sir, it did.
And Maya was complaining of pain in her midsection and extremities at this time?
Yes, sir.
And do you know, if you do, whether this was caused by something physical or emotional? And I'm not asking for the actual event, but if you know which it was.
I think it was caused by both. I think she was under extreme stress at the time, and I think things went south on us in a hurry.
Now, insofar as how Maya is strike that. Let me show you a trial exhibit for marker identification 2375 and ask you whether this appears as part of your medical records. I'll have it brought up there, and I have a hard copy if you need.
Yes, this was a letter sent to me by Beata after the protective order was put in place.
All right. And then why did you place this in your file?
Just because I thought it underscored that she wasn't being abused, that people weren't doing things to her that she put her in pain, and was, it underscored to me how much she loved her parents and how much she wanted to be reunited with them.
Did it advise you of her medical and emotional condition?
Yes.
And this has been previously admitted, Judge?
Yes.
Permission to publish the original to the jury, but I need to show the witness first to elaborate on what's in the back. May I approach?
One to from the clerk. The clerk has the original.
Now, on the back side of this, are there any imprints there that you noted?
There was some areas of increased coloration that were, I assume, corresponding to the kisses she was sending to her family.
Permission to publish the physical?
You may. Again, members of the jury, you're going to have all the exhibits in the back room with you when you deliberate. So this will not be the only time you get to see this or any of the other exhibits.
I know what I wanted to ask you. May I proceed while they're observing that, Your Honor?
If we're having the jury look at something, we should wait.
Don't distract the jury with two things at once. They can only pay attention to one. Very complex. The jury's looking at the original note right here. this note that was written by Maya in the hospital to her family.
Looking at your phone right now.
Sorry.
Oh, the witness was looking at his phone. Got bored, pulled out his phone, checking the email. Judge called him out. Yes, we're caught up. We're caught up. Dilly Pickles, is your birthday today as well? Rewound to hear the birthday song. Happy birthday, Dilly Pickles. There you go. You're in there as well. Congratulations. Happy birthday. You share it with some great people.
Mr. Anderson, just to let you know, we've been going for about an hour and 20 minutes, so at some point in the next 15 or 20 minutes, we need to take a break.
I will be done before 10:30, Your Honor.
Okay.
Two more areas of questions, Doctor. You previously testified concerning the standard of care in these circumstances. The standard of care in this area, do you have an opinion based upon your background, training, and experience and knowledge of the standard in this area, as you previously testified, as to whether failure to advise oneself, a physician's failure to advise himself or herself of the history of the family with, among others, the treating pediatrician, is a breach of that standard of care?
I believe so.
Overruled.
I believe it is.
I want to take you back to one other point. On the 5th of August 2015, and I'm not sure whether we've got that one to bring up real quick, but there was a prescription for Xanax and Celexa to Beata Kowalski. I don't know if you recall prescribing those to her.
Yes, sir.
What was the purpose?
Maintenance medications. I'd say half to a third of my patients are probably on SSRIs or benzodiazepines these days, and so it's a stressful world out there, and we use the tools we have to try and get them through these stressors.
And were the Kowalskis going through at this point in 2015, before anyone diagnosed what was wrong with their child, a stressful period?
Yes, sir.
And did you then diagnose her as having any type of psychological disorder, or was this simply an episodic event?
No, I did not diagnose her as having a psychological disorder. It was simply given to her to try and help her cope with the stress.
Thank you, Doctor. Their witness.
Is your cross going to be more in about 10 minutes? Just trying to figure out when we're going to take our break, and it sounds like we're going to take it now. I see that one of the jurors has is that a question? Is it a question for the doctor? Yeah. We need to wait until all the questions are asked, so why should we move on to that? Members of the jury, we're going to take a break.
The jury already have a question.
15 minutes. Do not discuss this
And
case amongst
it sounds like it's from a female juror. The only significance of that is that the previous questions were from a male juror.
About 15 minutes.
So that indicates that we have at least two jurors who are asking questions. So is that a tennis ball? Do they have a tennis ball on top of the flag? It looks like a tennis. No, it's just a brass ball. That line is a reflection. At least it's not an eagle, because then it would be an Admiralty court, right? Oh, we've got
Please
the
be
fringe
seated, everyone.
already.
The jury is out of our presence. Dr. Wassenauer, while we're on break, you cannot discuss this case with either side. If you need to return your emails and calls, that's fine, so long as it has nothing to do with this case, okay? Any issues we need to address before we take our break? Okay, we'll be in recess for 15 minutes. I appreciate it.
15-minute break. 15-minute break. And now would be a good time to say Brandy's gone live. For those of you that are looking for the Shabusiness sentencing, I think it's supposed to go live here in like 2 minutes. Brandy is covering that on her stream. She is up and live. I've got her going on my desk right over here. You can't see it. It's right over here. I'm watching her in this corner. But it's sort of like a informal 10K celebration over there. So if you love Brandy like we do, it would be awesome if you jumped over there and just gave her a thumbs up. Even if you're going to stay here for the rest of the day, obviously you can go wherever you'd like on the internet. I don't own any of you, but it would be nice if you guys gave her a big thumbs up and a shout out and a like on the stream. Speaking of which, I forgot to like it. There we go. I was number 114. It's number 114. All right. That's one brass ball. That's it. Yep. Jamie says, I've got both of you going. Do I hear her talking in the background? Yes. Yes. I'll turn it down a little bit. I'm trying to listen to both. When I take my earphone off, I'm trying to listen to her and the other. But I'm super excited. Brandy went to CrimeCon, and not only did she network and get some connections with some amazing people and meet some really cool people, both on YouTube and in the true crime world. She just her excitement for this is awesome, and what she turns that into. It's not just like hey, I got these cool pictures I can post on Instagram. It turns into just amazing interviews and insightful interviews. So I'm looking forward to those as those are coming on her podcast as well. All right, I'm back. Judge Boyd, slow docket. So on break in this court, we just took a 15-minute break. So set a timer for 15 minutes.
15 minutes, counting down.
Okay, we've got a timer going. I'm pretty sure the judge is going to stick to that. The one thing I have liked in this court is the judge is very prompt, specifically when the jury is involved. When he says we're going to bring you in at 9 o'clock, he brings them in at 9 o'clock. So that is awesome. Trindler says, I went to CrimeCon a few years ago and it was awesome. I'd never heard of it until it was basically on the doorstep and people were saying, oh, I'm going to CrimeCon. I'm like, is that legal? I didn't know what it was at all. Might go another time. It's a little bit spendy. Sherry Smith, thank you. I appreciate all those who share the love with Brandy. Super proud of what she's accomplished, and she's just at the beginning of where she's going to go. It's going to be amazing. Has Judge Boyd received your flowers yet? Let me talk about that, Sherry Smith. Great question. First of all, the flowers are supposed to arrive on the 28th, the morning of the 28th, so that means before noon. I was just checking with Jay on his Twitter feed, and he gave his schedule for some of the amazing interviews he has going on. That's The Shaming of Jay is his channel. Judge Boyd is going to be on The Shaming of Jay at 7 p.m. on the 27th, so the day before the flowers arrive. So that's where it's at, and I'm looking for it. I encourage everybody, even if you're not a huge fan of Jay's show normally on the day-to-day for watching trial, to go watch that and see how the interview with Judge Boyd goes, because we love Judge Boyd. I like Jay. I've got one of his mugs, the Shaming of Jay mugs. It was awesome. I won that one fairly early on in his YouTube experience, but a lot of respect for him and what he does. So that's awesome. Let's see, CrimeCon 2024 is in Nashville, Tennessee. Hey, it's closer. I think that's closer. Yeah, it's just one state over, so it's probably I could drive, is what you're saying. It would be like a day's drive to get there. And then how far is that from, like, where's that Dollyville? Is it Dollyville? Barberville? Is it Pardonville? I forget. I think it's Dollyland. Isn't there something about Dolly Parton over in Tennessee that's like an amusement park of some sort? Tickets go on sale October 2nd. All right. We might have to get in on the ground floor on that one. What's the link for Brandy? If you type !Brandy in chat, Babs, just put an exclamation point right here in front of the Brandy. The bot will respond with a link you can click on in chat, and that will take you right over there. Dollywood. Okay, I was so close. So close. I've got some friends who absolutely love it and go there frequently. And so we might have some options. All the cons are expensive. I think Comic-Con is the most. Original Sin. Comic-Con, I have won, I believe, 3 sets of tickets, and one of them was a VIP ticket to Comic-Con, and I never went, but I did enter and win. I ended up gifting my tickets to somebody who knew what it was and would appreciate it a little bit more than I did. I have no costume to wear, and I think that's a requirement at Comic-Con, right? You have to be in costume. You have to be a character. It seems everybody is, but yeah. So it was. I won before the big lawsuits, before the Comic-Con lawsuits. Okay, so Nashville, October 2nd. I have to watch for ticket prices. I wonder now about Comic-Con. For those that know, would this be something I'd be allowed to live stream all day, or some of the events are exclusively live streamed by, say, like a channel or something like that? Orange sweatshirt sounds like good cosplay. That could be. It seems like a cop-out when you see the level of commitment that a lot of people show when they go to Comic-Con. It's intense. They really go all out. All right, what else did we have that we need to cover in this brief break? We've only got 15 minutes, and we're going to be back. I could always go as a pickle. Dollywood is in Pigeon Forge. Loved it there. How far is Pigeon Forge from Nashville? Could you like stay in Pigeon Forge and then attend CrimeCon in Nashville? You can live stream all you want. We do so many cons, even during like panels and things like that, or are those like off limits? You want Platinum VIP, and they only sell so many. Platinum VIP. What is? I imagine that gives you like early entry, a massive swag bag, and some meet and greet opportunities. I'm not very good at. I'm a bit of an introvert. I'm not sure if I'd be good at a meet and greet setting. Plus, the worst part for me, honestly, I will come out and own this right now. The worst part for me is remembering people's names. I struggle. I can remember a face, and I'll be like, "Oh, hey, I know you," and then my brain kicks in. It's like, how? It's like taunting me. How do you know this person? I'm like, well, I've seen them before. Like, where? I'm like, in front of me. I don't know. So I'd be really nervous going, and people would remember my name that should remember my name, and I should remember their name, and it just doesn't click for me. I don't commit to many things, but I put so much effort into my cosplay. Some people do really, really well. I've built one costume in my life, and it took a couple weeks to build it, and it was amazing, and it took first place in the costume contest, and I vowed that I will never put that much effort into a costume again. You missed out on a great people watching show. Cosplay is preferred. Yes, it would be. It would be fun to go. Comic-Con is different than CrimeCon. Lindy, I was surprised at the broad range of people that were showing up for CrimeCon. Literally everyone from commentators from big channels, all the way down to the smallest YouTubers, to the family members of crime victims. I didn't realize that the breadth of participants was so wide and broad. It was amazing. What's the dates for Nashville next year? I haven't looked. Weather Watch was telling me October 2nd the tickets go on sale, and apparently I'm scared to ask how much a Platinum VIP costs. I don't consider myself a Platinum VIP type of person. So is there a level above the just let you in at the last minute price? Is CrimeCon worth the entry fee? I'm gonna talk to Brandy about that, and maybe reach out to a couple other people who went there. You've got Iked Mel was down there. I might ask him a couple questions. He spent some time with Brandy down there as well. I think it's in May. The other day, I found myself in a small conversation with one of the jurors from the Halderson trial on Reddit. It just happens. It's funny where you meet people. That's really cool. All right, we're ready to come back. I think we've got a few minutes before the proceedings begin. Platinum is $1,400. Okay, so in my mind, this is what I think. As anytime I'm about to spend money on something, especially something that's the price of a great computer, or I think what electronics item could I buy for this amount of money? This is how my brain works. What electronics item could I buy? And that right there would pay for a really nice set of wireless SDI and HDMI transmitters with about a 600, 700 foot range, and the cables to connect. Brandy says hi. I'm watching Brandy. I chatted a little bit over there. I sort of cheated a little bit and I popped in. I have my 4-month membership anniversary over there on her channel. It's a ton of pickles. Oh my goodness. Do the math. $2.84 divided by into 1,400. That's almost a month's worth of pickles right there. It's a mortgage payment. It's 2 car payments. It's a ton. Free Wi-Fi here. Ugly Betty. I've already got the internet covered. I realized a lot of people struggled with the internet connection, but I've got that live view that allows me to have live. Basically, if they have a weak signal, I have a super strong one at that point because I've got 4 of them bonded together. They can add pickles to lots of milk as well. Add pickles to the swag bags. Neely, I don't know. I constantly doubt myself. Like I didn't think I could ever be in front of a camera. I went to school for this and successfully managed to go through the entire 4 years of almost never being in front of the camera, in spite of the fact that that's what many of the classes specifically were about. And then here I am, 8 hours a day in front of a camera. Linda says, that's okay, I cheat on you with Judge Boyd too. That's not cheating. That's not cheating. Honestly, Linda, sometimes some of the best tips we have about some of the amazing cases that sort of just sneak up on a peer come from somebody who cheats on the channel and watches somewhere else and says, hey, this is going on or this is coming up. That is amazing. And I'd encourage you to make sure you save the burner phone number in case something just amazing happens you need to let us know about. That would be awesome. Then we can join you. Okay. Thank you, Cachette, for just being amazing in the background, getting some stuff done for me on the channel.
Now, and if I pay the platinum price, which is $1,300 plus, I would want to pick you as my meet and greet.
As a meet and greet, I don't think you wouldn't have to pay anything to meet and greet me if I was there. You just have to text me on the burner phone and say, hey, I'm on aisle whatever, and I would come over and say hi. Maybe I don't know that. Here's what I think, Lego My Briefs. If we ever do a meet and greet, it's going to be at a location that is going to be as free as possible, because I don't want people to have to pay to do that. How do I say this? It gets deep into my philosophy. I love YouTube. I love what it has allowed me to do. I mean, the idea that I can work from home. I can wake up and get dressed and come downstairs and sit down in my really comfy chair and do this and be here with you guys. And it's opened doors for me that just are unbelievable. And it's been a huge blessing in my life. For that reason, I would like to, if we do a meet and greet, I'd like it to be as free and open and available as possible. And I realize it's going to have to be at some location, so it will always be far from somebody. But you would never have to pay. I mean, I would meet you outside if you you'd have to buy a ticket. Okay. Let's see. Marcy says, you have a beautiful family and a large house. Would you like to adopt a 73-year-old lady? Marcy, that's funny. I have a house that is amazing. I love it. It doesn't have any storage space. We do have the Airbnb, which we just got the countertops in yesterday. They look amazing. They're like a white marble with gray lines in it, but it's not marble. It's an epoxy pour, and I'll show you what it looks like eventually. But okay, so we've got audio on, but nothing here yet. Lego, I would pay $1,300 to get a selfie. Don't. Here's what I'd say, Lego. Take the $1,300, buy somebody else a membership or two, and then buy yourself something really cool and get a free selfie. That's what I'd say. Pay a little bit forward and then
hey, everyone,
get a free
selfie.
awesome.
Members of the jury, I want to confirm while you were away, you did not discuss this case amongst yourselves. You did no investigation and received no information. Is that all correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Hunter.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. Morning. We've met before, haven't we, Dr. Longfellow? Sorry, sir? We have met before. Yes, sir. Nice to see you. Let's kind of get a couple things squared away up front if we could. You've been treating the Kowalski family with the exception of Jack for several years, correct? Yes, sir. And you agreed to appear here to testify on their behalf, correct? Yes, sir. Did you have occasion to meet with Mr. Anderson before you appeared here today? I did. Okay. And he had a discussion with you about what your testimony would consist of? We had some discussion about possible things that would be discussed, yes, sir. Well, he asked you to review some records for him, correct? Yes, sir. And testify about those records? Yes, sir. Right. And you are appearing here today as an advocate for the Kowalski family, is that right? Yes, sir. Okay. So you're not just a witness, you're an advocate. Yes, sir. Let me take you back, if I could, to the first time that you saw Maya Kowalski. That was in 2014? Yes, sir. I don't want to belabor this, but she came in at that point to just establish a relationship, a new pediatrician in Florida. Yes, sir. All right. And she came in with a diagnosis of asthma, correct? Yes, sir. And she had an action plan for the asthma. Yes, sir. Is that right? Did you ever get her records from her previous physician? I have a copy of their action plan. Mm-hmm. Would you ever get her records from a previous physician? I don't think I had anything from the Chicago hospital. Well, you never talked to her previous physician who was transferring care to you, did you? No, sir, I did not. Now, just for kind of a baseline here, and for future reference, what was, I've got 1066-1, but the only reason I mention that is to call attention to the weight at that time. What was the date of that, sir? That was 11/25, check that, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. 11/25/14. Yes, sir. It's 25.3 kilos? Yes, sir. Is your math good at that 2.2 times conversion better than mine? I have it converted someplace, sir. It's about 64 pounds, isn't it? Should be. Let's see what I did with that.
Yes, it is. This is interesting because the hospital does everything in kilos than metric. But the jury thinks in pounds. So 29.4 kilos does sound much lighter than 64 pounds. I think this can get really spicy. This is one they can really afford to push hard on. This is another professional. This is the doctor. The conversion is 55.7, yes, sir. Okay. 55.7 pounds. What?
And that's as of your first visit with her? Yes, sir. And then you didn't see her again until September of 2015? June 19th, 2015. I'm sorry? Oh, no, that was my partner. You stand correct. Yes, sir. So, at that time, back in 2015, I think you told counsel that you were still doing hospital practice, yes, correct? Sir. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned something about you were on the medical staff at both hospitals. Yes, sir. That would be both Sarasota Memorial and Doctors? No, sir. That would be the two campuses of Sarasota Memorial. Mm-hmm. Did you have privileges at Doctors? No, sir. So were you aware at all of her ER visits and admissions to Doctors Hospital in the summer of 2015? I don't think I had records of that until she came in to see me in September.
Did you know she had been to Venice Hospital in 2015, in the summer 2015?
I don't have those records, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, well,
but
you weren't aware of that.
I was aware that she had been to.
You weren't called in consultation to see her
No,
at
sir.
either doctors or Venice, correct?
No, sir.
And when she went to Sarasota Memorial, you weren't called there either, correct?
No, sir.
And were you a part of her admission to All Children's on the 2 or 3 admissions she had in July of 2015?
Yes, sir.
You weren't involved in that at all?
Yes, sir. Correct.
And you weren't involved in her final admission in July of 2015 at All Children's before she went to Lurie's, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And can we agree but you did get the records from those?
Yes, sir.
And you did see the discharge summaries from those?
Not all of them, but I've seen some of them, sir, I'm sure.
Okay. Well, when you saw this patient in September, she had not just had those several admissions to All Children's, and she had not just had this generalized pain that she presented to you with.
Mm-hmm.
She had also been to Lurie's Children's Hospital, correct?
Yes, sir.
And did you have any records at all from Lurie's?
Not that I recollect, sir.
Did you have any indication from Lurie's of the psychologists and pain management folks who saw her there?
Not at that time that I saw her in September.
Okay. And that was after she was discharged from All Children's, correct?
From the July admission, sir?
Right.
Yes, sir.
And then she went from Lurie's to Tampa General, correct?
Yes, sir, for physical therapy.
Okay. And she was under the care there of a Dr. Kornberg?
I remember seeing the name, yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know who Dr. Kornberg is?
No, sir.
You know he's a pediatric
I have no
rehabilitation.
knowledge of Dr. Kornberg.
Have no knowledge of it. Okay. Did you know that she saw a psychologist and a psychiatrist at Tampa General?
I was aware. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you know what her discharge diagnosis from Tampa General was?
I don't have those records in front of me, but I think it was conversion or somatization or something to that effect.
Okay. So when she presented to you on September 2nd, 2015, you had not seen all the discharge summaries from her admissions to All Children's. You had no knowledge of Lurie's, and you had Tampa General's discharge, but you hadn't really read it. Is that a fair characterization?
That's fair.
Okay. And you knew in general that there was a suspicion at Tampa General after a month of hospitalization, or close to it, that there was a somatic syndrome or conversion disorder suspected. You knew that?
I'm aware that that's what they thought.
Okay. So you see her in September 2nd, 2015, what, 2 or 3 weeks after her discharge?
That sounds about right. I don't have that exact timeline in front of me.
Well, let's ballpark it. Mm-hmm. Who was she seeing for physical therapy then?
Post Tampa General?
Yes, sir.
I'm not aware.
Do you know how many times she'd been?
No, sir.
Who was she seeing for psychological therapy at that time?
I am unclear whether she was still seeing Eagle's Wings at that time or that was later date, sir.
Well, when you say Eagle's Wings, you're talking about a practice. Do you know who it was she was seeing and what their credentials were?
No, sir.
Okay. The reason I ask is that when you saw her that September, you talk about her stormy course over the summer. She was wheelchair bound, correct?
Yes, sir.
So she was unable to get out of a wheelchair, unable to function, and the history was that the specialists at Tampa General and the specialists at Lurie's were suspecting a conversion disorder. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you just didn't think that fit?
No, I did not think that fit.
Okay. Well, they had seen the patient for a several-week hospitalization and then which followed a several-day hospitalization. They had done, well, let me just stop there. Did you pick up the phone at that point and talk to any of those doctors and ask, this is your diagnosis, I just don't think it fits. Can we reconcile this? Did you do that?
No, sir.
Did you know that she underwent an EMG study at 10?
Yes, sir, I was aware of that.
Okay. And did you know that she had an MRI?
I know at some point she had an MRI of the brain. Yes, sir.
Okay. So did that figure in your thinking at all?
All data for...
Okay. Now, reference was made to an oxycodone prescription she had at this point.
Yes, sir.
Do you know who wrote that prescription?
I've never heard it pronounced
as opposed
oxycodone.
to the one
I think I always do
that she
oxycodone.
got a month and a half before when she was discharged from All Children?
No, sir, I do not know.
Okay. Did you continue that prescription yourself?
I do not believe, I may have written it on one occasion, but I don't believe, I certainly wasn't the one that supplied her on a regular basis.
But you continued the oxycodone prescription that day, did you not?
I'd have to reference my record, sir.
Well, did you know at that point who she was getting that prescription from if it wasn't you?
No, sir, I unless it was entered in my chart, I did not give it to her.
Okay. Now, with what you knew of what the diagnosis had been or the suspicions had been at Tampa General or Lurie's, did you hear anything about CRPS being suspected?
Not at that time, sir, no.
Did you know that one of the specialists at Lurie's had a special interest in CRPS?
No, sir.
There was an objection.
Just stop.
When there's an objection, you stop. He gives the kill signal. This is cross. Yes, this is cross. The objection sidebar, so we don't know what the state of the objection is, but this is the most pointed we've seen the defense be in questioning. Because the defense, they've got to be very careful, right? Especially if the jury is looking at these family members as, oh, you poor things, I feel sorry for what you've been through. If they were to come and jump at them and catch them in a little tiny inconsistency, I'm not saying lie, but an inconsistency, or be able to point out something that makes them look bad, they might win a point as far as the scorekeeping goes in court. But the jury might be like, hey, you're attacking a teenager, you're attacking a kid, you're attacking someone who just lost their wife, or their sister. So they have to be very careful. But where the doctor's on the stand, this is like gloves can come off. They can come swinging with all their might, and that's what they're doing here, because this is one of their own. Right, so this is a professional that you can really beat up on, and so this is where they have to try to score their major points. And we're going to see probably the strongest cross-examination, style of the entire court when you have a professional like this on the stand. And unless you get a witness that is just blatantly off over on one side, where it's so slanted of testimony that you can tell that there's an element of untruth, then they got some leeway, because the jurors will be thinking, I don't know, I agree with most of what he's saying, but this seems like too much, and then they can point that out. But let's see, Alicia says, oh my, coleslaw wrestling in a biker bar, holy cow. I missed that. What is going on? I think the sentencing is about to begin over there for Shabusiness. So
the answer stands as given.
The answer stands as given. So the objection was overruled.
Are we going to address subject matter jurisdiction?
Turning, if we could, to your physical examination on September 2nd, 2015?
Oh, yes, sir.
Did you note allodynia?
I did not.
Did you note any skin changes in terms of color?
Not documented in my record, sir.
Did you note any skin lesions in your record?
Not at that time.
Did you note any change?
Objection. May the witness be allowed to answer the question?
Let's ask the whole question, and Dr. if you'll let him ask the question, and then we'll listen to your whole answer.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought I had it. Sorry. Did you document, did you note any changes in skin temperature?
I did not document that, sir.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's a spit
All of those
mask
things
or
I've just talked
a
about are potential findings for CRPS, correct?
Yes, sir. I'm aware of that now.
Okay. And to this point in your career, you had never seen CRPS in a child, is that right?
That's correct.
You had seen it in adults,
Mm-hmm.
and you knew what it looked like in adults.
Yes, sir.
But you'd never seen it in a child in 30 some odd years, correct?
Correct.
And you saw no indication of that in the records from Tampa General or all children's that you saw?
Oh, the CRPS, sir?
Yes, sir. Of suspicion of CRPS?
No, sir.
All right. Now, on that date, what was the patient's weight?
25.5 kilos again.
No change in close to a year?
Let's see. 15. Yes, sir.
Then you next saw this patient on October 15th?
Yes, sir.
And this was after she saw Dr. Kirkpatrick?
Yes, sir.
Now, you've talked to counsel about what you knew of Dr. Kirkpatrick or didn't know. You'd never heard of him before, right?
Correct, prior to that.
Okay. And you thought he was board certified?
Yes, sir.
Where'd you get that idea?
I thought that came up in deposition, sir.
Is there a AMA recognized specialty in CRPS?
No, sir. Pain management.
Pain management. Did you know whether Dr. Kirkpatrick was board certified in pain management?
Like I said, I assumed he was.
Beyond scope. Overall.
I'm sorry.
I thought I was told that he was board certified, sir.
Who told you that?
I thought the parents.
Did they also tell you he was board certified in neurology or something else?
No, sir.
But you thought he was board certified in pain management?
Yes, sir.
Did you think he was board certified in anesthesia?
That's basically, they have to be board certified in anesthesia and then have a subspecialty in pain management.
In other words, you have to have an anesthesia in order to get pain management.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
All right. And you thought he was board certified in both?
That was my impression, sir.
When you examined this young lady on October, well, first of all, let me back up a little bit. By this point, in October of 2015, your patient had already had several doses of high-dose ketamine from Dr. Kirkpatrick, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Did you know what the doses were?
No, sir.
At that time, did you have any familiarity with the use of ketamine, high-dose ketamine, to treat CRPS?
No, sir.
Never heard of that, had you?
Unclear.
I'm sorry? Not
sure.
Certainly never had one of your patients suggested to it.
That's true.
Had you had any of your adult patients treated that way?
No, my adult patients did not receive IV ketamine.
So you don't use ketamine in your practice?
No, sir.
And you never heard of it being used in a child with CRPS, is that right?
Up until that point, correct.
Okay. And you never heard Dr. Kirkpatrick?
That's true. He was operating out of Tampa.
Well, you knew who the folks were at All Children's, right?
I knew some of the folks at All Children's. I don't know a lot of their staff. Yes, sir.
You know how to contact them, correct?
Yes, sir.
In fact, you still refer to All Children's, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Fairly frequently, correct?
I pick and choose.
Okay. You've sent a number of cases up there this year, right?
Probably fair to say.
All right. Point is, you know how to contact Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a special line for doctors to call in.
Yes, sir, but that's not how it normally works.
Okay. Well,
thank you,
know
Mandy.
how to contact the doctors up there, don't you?
Yes, sir.
And you get a dial pad on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In any event, in 2015, when you saw this patient and heard about the ketamine she was getting, heard about this treatment you'd never heard of before, did you call Dr. Kirkpatrick?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you have you ever talked to Dr. Kirkpatrick?
Not directly that I can recollect, sir.
Okay. So you never picked up the phone and called him and said, what's this treatment that you're giving my patient?
Mm-hmm. No, sir.
All right. So when you saw her that day in October of 2015, what did you find on a physical examination?
Well, physical exam was pretty unremarkable other than, couldn't be examined to touch,
She didn't want to be touched?
No.
Okay. It's hypersensitive?
Yeah.
That's a new finding, right? Correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you didn't note that
No.
the previous month? Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So after the first round of ketamine, she's got a new finding that makes examination of her more difficult. Right?
That's my understanding, sir.
And on that particular day, when you did your physical examination, did you find any indication of skin lesions?
There's nothing documented there, sir.
Well, given the diagnosis, that would be significant, wouldn't it?
Again, the skin lesions aren't used for criteria for diagnosing CRPS, sir.
But they're significant to the diagnosis, correct?
It's not what I would use to make the diagnosis, sir.
It's one of a constellation of symptoms you might consider, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if you're considering making a diagnosis of CRPS and you find skin lesions, that's a significant finding, isn't it?
I disagree. It's not part of the criteria used to diagnose that.
But it's consistent with the disease, right?
You can have skin lesions for different causes. We already established they're non-specific.
Okay. So you couldn't tell. Well, back up. I'll cover that in a minute. Let's do this. Let's talk about changes in skin temperature. Did you find that on October 15th, 2015?
No, sir. I was already in agreement with the diagnosis from Dr. Kirkpatrick and was not performing that kind of exam on her.
So you just accepted his diagnosis?
It fit. She met the criteria based on his description and his notes.
So you had his notes?
I did have them.
I'm sorry?
Yes, sir. That's my recollection.
Your recollection?
Yes, sir.
Did you see his video?
Not at that time, no, sir.
Okay. Have you ever seen a video of his first visit with this young lady?
No, I have not.
At that time, what medications was this young lady on?
We're talking October 15th, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, she was on albuterol, which is a bronchodilator for her asthma, baclofen, which is a type of muscle relaxant, clonidine, which can be used for pain relief. She was on diazepam, which is Valium, which is a tranquilizer. She had access to an EpiPen, which is an epinephrine if needed in a severe asthma attack or allergic response. She was on Flonase, which is a nasal steroid, fluoxetine, which is a antidepressant, melatonin to help her sleep, Miralax, bronchodilators, more asthma meds, and an acid blocker.
How many medications was she on?
Looks like 11, 12. Some of them are as-needed medicines. They're not given regularly.
Now, you refilled her oxycodone at that point, correct?
On that one occasion, yes, sir.
All right. And did you have any idea how long that was going to go on?
No, sir, but I wasn't, that was a one-off sort of thing that normally she would be getting her meds from pain management.
Did you know that pain management, that Dr. Kirkpatrick expected you to do it?
No, there was no communication to that effect.
Right.
And that would be not following with the protocols for pain management. They tend to like to handle that.
Okay. You noted that she had been to All Children's for acute abdominal pain, correct?
There was so many, let's see here. You talking that specific note?
I'm sorry, I've gotten ahead of myself here. That's the next note. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
Okay. So you renewed her prescription for oxycodone and said you'd see her in 2 or 3 months. Is that
yes,
right?
Sir. Mm-hmm.
So you next saw her, as counsel indicated, on November 5th?
Yes, sir.
And that's, about 3 weeks later?
Yes, sir.
And at that point, she had been to All Children's.
Yes, sir.
With what proved to be obstipation.
Mm-hmm.
Would you tell the jury what obstipation is?
I believe we discussed it, but it's basically a severe form of constipation.
That can be caused by narcotics and oxycodone?
Can be caused by medication use, yes, sir.
Can it be caused by oxycodone?
Absolutely.
Okay. At that point, there was a conversion being made to put this young lady on a dilaudid an IV dilaudid patient-controlled anesthesia device, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you discuss that with Dr. Kirkpatrick?
No, sir.
That's a situation where there's an indwelling IV line.
Yes, sir.
That's a PICC line, correct?
Yes, sir.
Incidentally, do you ever order PICC lines to be placed?
Order PICC lines on people getting long-term IV antibiotics, yes, sir.
Okay. And when you do that, do you expect the person placing the PICC line to endorse or second-guess your diagnosis and your treatment?
No, sir.
They're just a technician, right?
Well, you place the order for the PICC line, yes, sir.
And you expect them to put it in and not question why it's being put there?
Normally.
Okay. Now, the dilaudid is a synthetic form of narcotic, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that also has a number of potential issues with it, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
Did you know how long that was going to go on?
No, sir.
Did you ever discuss with Dr. Kirkpatrick how long that narcotic was going to be given to your patient?
No, sir. He is the person controlling the pain management routine.
Okay. Now, you did know at this point that the patient was planning to go to Mexico for a ketamine coma. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe that was the... I'm not sure if I knew that date or not, sir.
Let me ask you to have reference, please, sir, to your note regarding your first visit with Mrs. Kowalski of that same day.
Okay.
I think you'll find in there that there's some discussion of going to Mexico. Okay. Did you have any idea what the coma would consist of in terms of how much ketamine the patient would be given or how long she would be in a coma?
I understood it was to be 5 days, but the dosing was not discussed.
Okay. Had you ever heard of that being done before?
Again, we were on new grounds there with, complex regional pain syndrome, and so I don't have a extensive background for people having received it.
I'm sorry?
I didn't have a large pool of patients to draw experience from for that, sir. It's an unusual condition.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about that as long as you made reference to it. It's an unusual condition in adults, correct?
Yes, sir. It's an uncommon condition in adults.
Uncommon. But it's rare in children, correct?
More rare, yes, sir.
Okay. So rare you've never seen it before?
Correct. Not in children.
And sufficiently rare, had you ever seen it presenting as a generalized pain syndrome?
Have I ever seen it? No,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
No, sir.
All right. Because usually it's regional, right? Name implies. Chronic regional pain syndrome.
More common in adults to be regional. Okay.
So you were dealing with a doctor you'd never heard of, a disease that you'd never seen before in this setting, and 2 sets of treatment. The initial ketamine treatment by Dr. Kirkpatrick and now this coma. 2 sets of treatment that you've never heard of before. Is that right?
That sounds accurate.
Okay. And you had no discussion with Dr. Kirkpatrick about any of this?
No, sir.
When you saw her on the 5th, had her condition changed? Was she still wheelchair bound?
Yes, sir.
She was still non-functional?
Yes, she's still having this severe extremity pain.
Okay. And so she was still unable to go to school?
That's my understanding.
Now, at that point, you basically just kind of let Dr. Kirkpatrick drive the ship, so to speak. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you didn't provide him with any input at all, correct?
Correct.
And you never tried to reconcile his diagnosis with that of the other specialists who had seen this patient, right?
No, I think that when you looked at his criteria, it fit the best of existing explanations. Chronic regional pain syndrome fit her better than anything else.
Okay. So you then next saw her on December 17th.
Yes, sir.
After she'd come back to Mexico, from Mexico.
Yes,
right?
sir.
She's still in a wheelchair?
Yes, sir.
She's still not functional.
She could be, I made a note that she could be touched and examined more readily than previously.
But in terms of function, ability to go to school.
She was still in a wheelchair.
She couldn't walk. She's still in a wheelchair.
Yes, sir.
She's still non-functional. Correct?
But improved.
Improved. And that improved meant her pain wasn't as bad.
Yes, sir.
Didn't go away, it just wasn't as bad.
Yes, sir.
Now, at that point, she's about to go back to Mexico again. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And she's anemic.
Yes, sir.
And she's actually lost some weight.
A little bit.
Previously.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Did you know whether she was getting any physical therapy at this point?
I know there was ongoing attempts to give her physical therapy, but sometimes if she couldn't be touched, it's hard to achieve if she can't tolerate being touched.
Let me ask you this. Did you ever talk to her physical therapist?
No, sir.
Did you even know where she was getting physical therapy?
I think there was different places at different times, sir, so I'm not aware at that particular moment.
Okay. Were you under the impression that she was still getting psychological therapy?
I don't make a comment on that, sir.
So you didn't know one way or the other?
Yes, sir.
And have you ever spoken with any of her psychological counselors or mental health counselors?
At any point in time or at this point in time, sir?
At that point in time.
At that point in time, no.
So you didn't know who they were?
No.
if any?
No, I'm confident she was seeing somebody.
But you don't
Discussions with the parents.
know you don't know who, and you don't know under what circumstances.
Correct.
So you saw her for a illness visit in February. Is that right?
Correct.
And then you also saw her, as counsel and you have discussed, in April of 2016, April 1st, 2016.
Yes, sir.
At that point, did you know who was treating her with ketamine?
I'm trying to think whether it was Dr. Hanna or Dr. Kirkpatrick at that time. I'll have to go back and look.
Okay.
If we can try to keep the topic discussion in chat focused on this case, it's very difficult. Everyone's experiences are so different. Comparing our experience to someone else's is going to be hard to do in chat.
No, sir.
Did you know why it was she was receiving that much?
Because that was what was felt was helping her.
Well, then let's talk about that for a minute. Was she still in a wheelchair?
Lawyers moved away from the microphone.
Don't comment on it at that particular time.
Did you think she had gotten out of the wheelchair?
No, sir.
So is your recollection she was still confined to a wheelchair?
That's my recollection.
And she's still non-functional? She can't walk?
Okay. You're being generalized and saying non-functional.
Well, is she back in school?
She's still homeschooled.
Does she have pain in her upper as well as her lower extremities, or did you note that?
In that visit, I did not necessarily note that.
Did you note any complaints of lack of sensation or weakness at that point, other than recalling that she was still wheelchair bound?
No, nothing else is documented, sir.
So, at that point, well, let me back up. Did you note at that time any allodonia or dystonia with this patient?
The fact that I didn't comment at all on her neurologic exam means that she wasn't tolerating my touching her.
And by this point, can you just tell us how many medications she had gotten up to?
Well, see it in my notes, sir. I'm sure you know the number.
To tell you the truth, I want to make sure of my count.
Sorry?
I want to make sure of my count.
All right, well, we can do that. And a lot of these there's some vitamin supplements in there. There's some what we call PRNs, which is as needed. So we can do the count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 19 or 20.
Okay. More.
Yeah.
Then you have a gap in your treatment of this patient between that date, April 1st, and August 11th of 2016. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You didn't see her at all between those two points, right?
That's correct, sir.
Were you aware she was getting hyperbaric oxygen therapy?
I was aware.
How were you aware of that?
Beyond had told me.
Is that something you recommend for CRPS?
Let's diverge for hyperbaric treatment, okay? Number one, I'm very comfortable with hyperbaric treatment because I used to work as an attendant and an operator for hyperbaric treatment when I was a medical student at UF. All right, so I'm familiar with the different applications of hyperbaric therapy. And so I was very comfortable with hyperbaric therapy. There had actually been a paper for CRPS utilizing hyperbaric treatment. So I understood the parents wanted to try something different, something to try and help her.
Were you aware of any recommendation that CRPS patients try hyperbaric therapy?
I know that they had found that through their investigations online.
Did you refer her for that?
No, sir.
While I'm on the subject, did you ever refer her for any psychological therapy?
It was my impression that she was under therapy at the time she needed it. At no point did I see that she was crashing and burning and wasn't already established with a counselor.
So back in the fall of 2015, if I can back up just a minute.
Okay.
When Dr. Kirkpatrick first saw her in September and October, you were never aware of any situation in which she was becoming suicidal or mentioned being suicidal?
It was never mentioned to me, sir.
All right. Did you ever see that in Dr. Kirkpatrick's record?
Yes, Your Honor, beyond scope. Overall.
Don't recollect that, sir.
All right. Let's go back to August of 2016. Was she, let me back up one more moment on the referral. Did you ever refer her for immunodeficiency?
No, sir. She was already seeing allergy immunologists.
You know who that was?
She saw several.
Did you see Dr. Menendez?
That was one of them.
Did you refer to him?
No, sir.
Did you ever see the report that he sent you?
Yes, sir.
You saw it just before your deposition was taken in this case, is that
Well, I
right?
saw it at some point before that.
Well, did you ever call him and ask
No, sir.
about any of his impressions or the potential for Munchausen by proxy?
Objection.
I saw the note, sir, but I didn't.
Hold on a second. It's the legal basis.
It states facts, assumes it states facts not in evidence, the records are not in evidence.
Overruled.
Subject.
I saw the comment, but I did not believe it applied to Maya.
So you never talked to him about it?
No, sir.
And you saw that he did not diagnose an immunodeficiency?
I saw several other allergy notes that did document IG subclass deficiency in Maya. Okay, that I've seen laboratories, and I saw notes from, I think Dr. Tan was one, and there was perhaps another who did document her IG subclass deficiency.
Well, did you ever refer her to any of those doctors?
No, sir.
Did you ever talk to any of those doctors about how to proceed with her care?
About what, sir?
How to proceed with her care?
No, sir.
All right. So when you saw her in August of 2016, was she still wheelchair bound?
She'd been doing pool therapy, and she was still in the wheelchair. Mm-hmm.
And she was still complaining of generalized pain, correct?
Correct.
And if I could ask for Joint Exhibit 1073, page 75, to be put up. Counsel asked you about your medical referral for homebound learning.
Yes, sir.
It was filled out at or about this time, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And let me ask you to look at it with me here. You answer yes. You scroll on down. You answer yes to the question of whether the student is suspected to be absent from school due to a physical or psychiatric condition or for at least 15 consecutive school days or 8 on a block schedule. You answered yes.
Yes, sir.
And then we skip down some, and it asks, that was a nice increase in size there. It asks at the bottom, is the student confined to home or hospital and full-time homebound or hospitalized? And you answered yes.
Yes, sir. I was trying to do what was in Maya's best interest.
Well, you believe that to be accurate, correct?
More or less.
Well, you weren't telling the school board a lie, were you?
No, sir.
And then says, do you recommend the student be placed in the most restrictive environment? And you said yes. Is that correct?
I wanted her to qualify for hospital homebound, sir, so that she could pursue her treatments and get her therapy.
you certified under yes, number 5, that is the student under medical care for illness or injury which is acute, catastrophic, or chronic in nature.
Chronic in nature.
So, at that time, she had gained weight, correct?
Yes, sir.
When you were asked to comment on her weight at All Children's, did you compare her weights in the hospital or just those at admission and discharge?
No, sir. I didn't have the linear weights done in the hospital. I just had my records.
Okay. So you never saw the indication in the chart that she got up to close to 70 pounds of weight?
You're talking about controlled and uncontrolled circumstances. I don't know if they're using different scales. I don't know if they're weighing her clothes, what situation. In my office, we weigh her on the same scales in the same circumstance. So I put more trust in my weight than what's done in the hospital.
Yours are closed, correct?
Sorry, yes, sir.
But the answer is you never looked at how the hospital weight changed during the admission.
Yes, sir.
Incidentally, when you were seeing this patient, did you ever consider the diagnosis of a tethered spine?
No, sir.
Ever enter your mind?
No, sir.
You saw this patient after she was discharged from All Children's.
Yes, sir.
You told us what your impression of her condition was at that time.
Yes, sir.
I don't like my scale.
First exam
I don't
is
like how it reads out.
January 18th of 2017, 1066.17.
That's correct.
And she's up to 29.3 kilos, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's 4 days after her discharge?
That's 64 pounds.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you've described your impression of what her condition was at that time. But it makes reference in your note to following up with psychology and physical therapy.
Yes, sir.
Did you talk to her psychologist or a physical therapist at that point?
Number one, we don't routinely contact the physical therapists. I mean, usually if they have an issue, they send us notes or requests. So no, I did not. Yes, sir.
You wrote her a script?
I don't know if she already had a script for physical therapy at that time or if we wrote it. If they requested one, I would have given one.
Sorry. Do you know how many times she went?
No, sir.
You didn't follow up on that at all?
No, sir.
Okay. And you didn't know who she was seeing for psychological therapy?
No, sir.
Now, if we fast forward here to the following fall, September of 2017.
Okay.
Was she improving?
Yes, sir. I made the comment that she was doing markedly better and able to get out of her wheelchair.
Okay. And at that point, how long had it been since she had any ketamine?
Since prior to going to the hospital. Well, no, she got some in the hospital, actually.
Got some in the beginning of the hospital?
Yeah.
Okay. And
that would have been October.
You don't know what dose it was?
No, I don't.
And you don't know how that goes compared to what she was getting from
I know it was less than what she was getting from pain management, yes, sir.
Substantially less?
I don't know substantially. I know it was less because Beata was requesting more.
At the time you saw her in September of 2017, what analgesia was she getting, if any?
At that time, there's no prescription analgesics that I see on my records.
As a matter of fact, she's down to 3 medications on your record, is that right?
Correct.
And she's not taking clonidine or opiate or anything like that, correct?
That's correct.
And did she then continue to improve after that?
The next time I saw her was January 2018.
And she had made huge strides.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And she kept improving from that point.
As for Maya getting
Is that
better
right?
after she lost her mom,
To a point.
I don't think they
To a point.
correctly diagnosed her
And
until
then
after
she
that.
had
Is that
a
right?
hospitalization
That may be why
in
she
Orlando,
improved.
correct?
Due to
Correct.
correct or
Did you ever
better
talk to the
treatment?
doctors over there?
I talked to Dr. Bornstein.
Okay. And his impression
Good
was
question,
of an
Ella.
eating disorder?
I'm not sure.
No, sir.
I'm
It
just
was not.
learning and listening
What
right
was
now.
it?
He distinctly did not make the diagnosis of an eating disorder, okay? And basically, his endoscopy showed limited gastritis, and he felt, my impression was that this was stress-induced and that she had limited this is a response to her stress at the time.
He didn't indicate to you that he thought there was a restrictive eating disorder secondary to stress and anxiety?
Restrictive eating disorder means that you're not taking in the calories, okay, and you're doing that because she was having abdominal complaints. That is not the typical eating disorder that I see in young females. The typical eating disorder I see in young females, they have disturbed body image. They think they look good. They don't see anything wrong with them, and they're extremely difficult to treat.
With bulimia and that sort of thing?
That's one aspect of it, yes, sir.
And she's never had that?
No, sir.
All right. But she's continued to do well since then, after that?
She got better, fortunately.
Okay. And today, is she doing better still?
She's obviously under a lot of stressors. Stressors make everything worse. So I think the jury's out on that, no pun intended.
Well,
She's smiling.
she's been,
I laughs.
what,
Good joke.
6 years without ketamine?
Yes, sir.
And you know of no plans for her to get more?
None has been discussed with me, sir. I don't see an indication for it at this point.
Talked about what went on when she was admitted to All Children's. Were you told about the court proceeding that was going on?
At some point, I was told that there was motions made to try and get visitation for the parents.
Did you offer to help with that?
I did.
Did you ever, after you talked to this resident that you spoke of, did you ever call All Children back?
No, I didn't.
You know the attending physicians there, you refer to them, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever pick up the phone and call them?
I did not know any of the physicians that were on the service taking care of Maya. I had previous experience with the child protection team, which included Sally Smith.
I'm not asking about the child protection team.
All right.
I'm talking about the doctors at the hospital.
No, sir.
You refer up there, you know how to get in touch with the All Children's Hospital, right?
I do.
Your phone's got a dial pad, correct?
Correct.
Your phone's
Did
got
you
a dial
ever
pad.
call
I've never
them?
heard that
No.
phrase before.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson. Insofar as not being able to use ketamine,
Patients before anesthetics manage to get over their illnesses, don't they?
Yes, sir.
And the pain meds are not designed, if I understand your testimony, to be a cure. They are to make things better.
Objection, leading your honor. Overruled. That's my understanding.
So, whether or not Maya had ketamine and could get through that easier and faster, she had to go through this without ketamine and just grit it out?
Yes, sir.
Have we...
Leading compound that...
Sustained.
From what you saw, was it more difficult for Maya to try to stabilize and get better without the ketamine?
Without ketamine?
Yes. Did she need the ketamine to get better quicker from what you saw?
It might have been helpful in that circumstance when she had the second presumed episode.
Meaning she had another episode, another relapse after she got out of Johns Hopkins?
Leading your honor.
Overruled.
That is my impression.
Now, getting to the number of meds, let's pull up what's marked in evidence as 2002. I'll show you what is in your file, I believe. Actually, I know it is. And if we can go, is it the next one here with the number? All right. So this is the discharge summary from Johns Hopkins as of January 13th, 2017. So I want to go over what Johns Hopkins had her on or recommended. You see here where it says home medications and new prescriptions?
Yes, sir.
All right. So is Aquaphor a topic that can be used for skin lesions?
Yes, sir.
What is lansoprazole?
It's an acid blocker.
All right, next.
You have to scroll
Hang on,
the page.
can we?
Okay, here we go.
All right. So the
Acetaminophen,
next,
pain reliever. Albuterol is a bronchodilator for asthma. Baclofen is a muscle relaxant. Cetirizine is an antihistamine.
okay. And what's the?
Choline calciferol is vitamin D.
Okay.
Ferrous sulfate is an iron supplement. Fluticasone is a nasal steroid. Oh, in that case, that was an inhaled steroid. The fluticasone nasal is a nasal steroid inhaled.
Right.
Sprayed through your nose.
All right, and we have another one. This is the last page.
Epirocin is a topical antibiotic. Polyethylene glycol is Miralax for constipation. Pregabalin is Lyrica, which is used in pain management. And multivitamins.
So, was Maya Kowalski discharged from Johns Hopkins with only 3 medications or with 13 or 14, depending on whether you see a vitamin as a medication?
On the list there's 14.
And was she checked out with a pain med or medicines designed to combat her CRPS pain?
That was the pregabalin, which is Lyrica.
How about the baclofen?
Baclofen would also be used for that.
The following hospitals and doctors were cited on your cross-examination about why you didn't call them back. And there was Doctors Hospital, Venice Hospital, Tampa General, Lurie, and I think another doctor. To the best of your knowledge, none of those doctors were accusing the Kowalskis of Munchausen by proxy, were they?
Objection.
Sustained.
That's to my knowledge, yes, sir.
Sir, the jury will disregard that answer.
Lots of
To the
disregarding.
best of your knowledge, there was no reason for you to need to call them back.
Correct.
And Beata Kowalski was, in fact, reporting back to you the next visit on what was going on.
Yes, sir.
Did she give a thorough history to you about the events in Maya's medical life, lack of a better term, since the last time you saw her?
She brought me up to speed on what was happening at that time.
Thus, was there any need for you to call physicians once you had the data from Beata Kowalski, the infusion nurse?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
Vieta was an extremely good historian, very knowledgeable medically, and they were very good about communicating to me what was happening with her and what the plans were and what they were hoping for.
And do you recall, as to the school homebound, whether that issue of whether she was going to go back to school in a wheelchair as opposed to staying in homebound at home, that were you aware that that was denied, that she was forced to go to school rather, in other words, that
objection.
What you wrote down didn't work effectively?
That was a long question.
I thought, number one, I knew she didn't want to go to school in a wheelchair, and I thought it was not in her best interest to go back to school and be stressed and upset when we've had this track record of having great difficulties when the stress levels go up. I was aware, which was the first time I've ever had them decline an application for hospital homebound. I still to this day don't know why they declined it, but I've never had that happen before.
And did it come to your attention that this emotional issue by Maya to having to go back to school, in fact, precipitated another relapse?
I know she was upset, yes, sir.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything further? Defense? Members of the jury, do any of you have a question?
They do have at least one question here.
Can the attorneys come forward?
Judge is going to review the questions. This question was actually, at least one of the questions was written before the defense even cross-examined the witness. So we'll see what these questions are. This could be very insightful. Look at the wink. Do you see the wink? They review the questions to make sure they're in a format or the type of question that can be asked in court. So the lawyers, both sides, can make objections to the jury's questions right here. And the judge would rule on it without announcing what the question is. Holding here. I'm not sure how many questions they have or if there's a lot of discussion about a single question. Who winked at who? The witness winked in the direction of the plaintiff's table. Basically looking mostly straight forward, which he's on the same side as the plaintiffs. That wink is recorded. Yes, it is. This would be exhausting for anyone. It's tiring on the attorneys, and this is what they do for a living. But this is going to court every day. It's tough. It'll take its toll on you. And she's got a long haul ahead of her.
Were there any other questions, or just the ones that were presented? Okay. Okay, Doctor. Who made the note of Kyle appearing malnourished, and who had he been examined by to reach that opinion and notation record?
Is this in reference to Kyle?
Kyle, yes.
I'm not sure who made that reference.
Thank you. The next question from the jury: is it common for doctors to collaborate with other doctors about their patients' care?
in a perfect world, it would be very nice. It is easier when you are part of the same system, such as my current group. We have we have a wide spectrum of specialists. We share the same medical record. So communication there is much easier because we can look on there and tell what's been done, what's been ordered. We can see the labs. Unfortunately, in the real world, when we are utilizing outside specialists and outside physicians and tests, it is very difficult for us to we don't always get comprehensive records. There is problems with communication sometimes, and it is,
There's no
trying
standard,
to request
standardized
records.
format.
I'd say half the time we get it, half the time we don't. So if there is when we communicate currently, most often directly is usually when I'm trying to get someone seen on an urgent basis to address a medical problem, because the current logistics, it'll take way too long for them to get in there and be seen by the specialist. So the most common scenario in which I pick up the phone and call someone is when I'm trying to get somebody seen urgently for an urgent medical condition.
Plaintiffs, any follow-up questions?
No, Your Honor.
Jurors, any follow-up questions? Okay, and may Dr. Wassenaar be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Wassenaar, for being here.
Thank you very much.
He's going to take his box and go home. He's done.
I'm not going to release him yet, but
What?
but he may be.
Okay, so
Subject to recall?
to the extent you're under a subpoena, it's possible you might have to be called back.
Today or another day or what?
Another day.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's another day.
Probably not, but.
Okay, no, that's fine. I'm just I want to know whether they hang around or not.
No, you don't need to hang around today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So he is not a paid expert. He's there under subpoena.
I'm looking for timing based on the witnesses you have this afternoon. Is there a short witness or?
I mean, relatively, our next witness would probably be.
It's only like 5'2".
20 to 30 minutes on direct, and I'm going to guess 5 to 10 on cross. But
Given the other witnesses you have this afternoon, should we take a lunch now or?
I'll leave that to the jury.
I'm asking you, given the scheduling that you have.
All of our witnesses are here and can be here for the duration of the day.
Judge wants a better
Are y'all
answer.
okay to go another, sounds like 30 minutes, or do you want to take a lunch now? Yeah, I'm hearing, let's call your next witness.
All right. Plaintiff's call Linda Brown.
Sounds like a female juror stepped up and said, I can go 30 minutes, and then the rest of the jurors agreed with her. That might be our foreman. You never know. I believe he is still practicing, yes, the prior witness.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am. So you're going to go walk around and have a seat on that witness stand?
She may... I have not seen a hat be worn in court, but she might have a reason to wear it.
Good morning, just barely. Would you please state your full name for the record?
Linda Suzanne Martin, hyphenated Brown.
And you and I have spoken on a couple of occasions, but we've never met in person, have we?
Not till today, sir.
Have you been called here to testify as a member of Epiphany Church?
Not really
Are
sure.
you a member of Epiphany
Yes,
Church?
I am.
Are you also a member of the Legion of Mary?
I am.
And on occasion in 2015 and 2016, did you come to know the Kowalski family a little bit?
Through Sister Francis, yes.
Just briefly, would you give the jury background in terms of how long you've been a resident in Venice and how long you've been a member of the church?
I've been in Venice since 1997. I've been a member of the church pretty much since then because I had my daughter in 98, so we became members full time when we had her.
And the Legion of Mary, would you explain for the jury what the Legion of Mary is?
There's two groups for the Legion of Mary. The first group is the main group that meets every week. They have meetings and discussions about places to go and people to see, to help and pray for whatever their needs might be. They also have what they call a traveling Mary or a pilgrim Mary. She's about 3 feet tall, and she comes in a big kind of black box, almost looks like a golf club kind of bag, but it's all square. You know, it's long and rectangular, and she comes in the box, and she has a beautiful crown that we put on her head, and there's a ceremony that goes with it, with a book that's inside of this box, all contained with Mary. We put rosaries around her neck, and then we pray with the family. We engage them with certain prayers that are in this book to leave the Mary with them so that they continue to do the rosary with this pilgrim Mary who's present in their home. And she's there for healing and hope and health, and gives a lot of us Catholics a whole lot of hope.
You happen to live in Stonewalk, which is the Kowalski's neighborhood, right?
It is.
And did there come a time in 2015 when you learned that Maya had a pain condition of some sort?
Was it 2015? Gosh, it was that long ago. From Sister Francis, I was at church with Sister Francis. I used to went to daily mass when they had it then. And excuse me, I don't mean to go.
You're doing fine.
Yes, I just need to breathe.
She's got her rosary beads. This is incredibly stressful.
Sister Francis
for her.
was speaking to someone about saying prayers for the Kowalskis, and she saw me and said, "They live in your neighborhood." And I said, "Oh, I will bring them the traveling Mary," because Sister Francis was telling me that their daughter was ill, and my heart went out to her, so I wanted to bring Mary there so that they all could pray for the healing of their daughter.
And so did you take the Mother Mary to the Kowalski's house?
I did. That was the first time I met Beata. And I went into the home, and her sister was there from Chicago. I did not see Maya at the time. And the husband was there as well, and they were getting ready to go somewhere for some function. So normally when you come into the house with this traveling Mary, you do the whole ceremony with the family and you set her up.
Ma'am, while we wait for the next question, okay?
All right. So you went to the home, you met Beata, you met Jack, Maya, you didn't see her. You brought in the Mother Mary. You explained a little bit, but what is the normal process that you go through with a family when you unbox her and set her up?
We unbox her and put her in a prominent place, and then we put the crown on her head and the rosaries around her neck, and we say the prayers that are in this particular book that comes with. And the family gets books as well so that they can all look at the prayers so they can say them together.
And on that occasion, you already mentioned that the Kowalski family was on their way out or something, so did you go through the ceremony with them at their house, or did you leave Mother Mary and trust that they would do that?
I left Mary with them to trust that they would do that.
And then, how long does Mother Mary typically stay in a family's home or a sick parishioner's home after you deliver her?
A week, or if she's not in need for someone else, if they need her longer, it can be extended. So it's the duration is who needs her next and who's waiting for her, or who needs her the most at the moment.
Did Beata and Jack appear appreciative that you were there with the Mother Mary?
Oh yes, absolutely.
And after a week, did you pick Mother Mary up or someone else?
No, sir.
Meaning someone else picked her up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so that was in 2015, and then fast forward a little bit, sometime in 2016, you saw Maya during the 4th of July parade, is that right?
That is correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about your interaction with the Kowalskis on the 4th of July 2016?
Well, it was our whole neighborhood, and it was the Kowalski family and a family across the street, and we intertwined. And there was a big, huge slide. And my immediate thing I first went to do was to go see Maya, and I did. She was in her wheelchair, and I gave her a big hug. And I thought she looked so well, I thought that she could just get up out of the wheelchair any day. And I gave her a stick of huckleberry chapstick and gave her a big hug, and just continued to be at the party. And
so typical 4th of July in your neighborhood with the parade, and you saw Maya that day. Is that right?
I did.
And then, is it true that the next time you interacted with the Kowalski family was when you got a phone call from Beata?
That is correct.
What was Beata's mental and emotional state at that point?
She was absolutely distraught.
Could you understand what she was telling you on the phone?
No, I could not, which is why I went over there to speak with her, so I could try to understand what she was saying to me.
And what did you learn when you got to the Kowalski home that day?
That Maya had been taken away from Beata.
And so you resolved to do what you do and deliver the Mother Mary?
Joyce and I were bringing the Traveling Mary to Maya.
Let me ask the question.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay. You show up at the Kowalski home. Beata's distraught. What did you decide to do to help Maya?
I went over to see Beata because she couldn't speak over the phone, and I didn't know what was wrong. And when I got there, she was crying and, snots everywhere and just so upset. And she kept saying that they took her, and I'm like, who took her? And she said the hospital took her. And I didn't understand any of that.
It's a legal basis. Is there an exception in this motion?
Excited utterance, then existing mental state.
Overrule the objection. You can finish your answer.
Good call by the judge.
You were saying the hospital took her. You can continue.
And I didn't understand what she was talking about at all. I didn't understand that. So I was just sitting there with her to just, help her breathe. And then Jack came home, and I left to let the two of them be together.
In the next couple of days or the following week, did you decide to then deliver Mother Mary to Maya?
Yes, we decided that we would go, we would bring her to the Traveling Mary to the hospital that Maya was in.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Okay, so this woman is she's a friend of the family, a neighbor, and also a fellow church parishioner that worshipped at the same church as the family. So when they discovered that the family was in a bad way, that things were going poorly, she decided to bring the Traveling Mary around, which is and I apologize if I get any of this wrong, but it's a physical item they bring that basically brings the church or the opportunity to pray directly to the family. And this is something that's done to help the family this is part of the basically loving one another, to lift them up. They're bringing the church to them. So it may not be familiar to everybody, but this is really something they do to help, to encourage, to bless. It's a very thoughtful gesture that they have this available. So they bring this, and then after the Traveling Mary has been at the family home, they decide to take it to the hospital where Maya is. And so we're going to see if the judge is going to allow questions related to this as we get through.
Mr. Whitney, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. So we were beginning to discuss your decision to take Mother Mary to Maya. And you said we. Who's we?
Joyce Sacco and myself.
And who is Joyce Sacco? Is she another member of the Legion of Mary?
She is a member of the Legion of Mary.
All right, so you knew at that point that Maya was at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, and you made a drive up there. Can you describe a little bit the drive up there?
I drove with Joyce in her vehicle, and we just prayed the entire way. We didn't discuss anything because we didn't know anything other than we were praying to help a little girl who was sick. That's all we knew.
And you arrive at the hospital, and you get up to Maya's room, and if you could describe the scene as you enter Maya's room.
I went in her room, and she was sitting there crisscross applesauce, and I went over to her, and she reached up to me, and I hugged her, and then we were...
And what happened next?
Just like darkness was there, and we were told to get out of the room. We weren't supposed to be in there. We I wasn't supposed to be touching Maya, and that what were we bringing? What was that? We tried to explain that it was the miraculous Mother Mary,
so religious
and that
artifact.
we were bringing her to be with Maya so that she could pray, and they said that was not allowed and that we had to go. So we left the room.
And who's they? Nurses or doctors?
Just whatever that dark force was behind me. I didn't really... It just was dark. That's all, the only way I can explain it.
And it was explained to them. You mentioned this is the Mother Mary. She's here to pray with Maya. Is that right?
That Maya would pray with her, yes.
And so, did they give you any reason that you couldn't be there with her?
They did not, no, sir.
But they kicked you out of the room immediately?
Yes, sir.
Where did you go?
To the chapel.
What did you do in the chapel?
Prayed.
And where was the chapel?
Downstairs in the hospital.
And were you praying for Maya?
Yes.
I missed something. Were you allowed to leave the Mother Mary with her in the room there?
No, sir, I was not.
You weren't allowed to leave the rosary beads that would go with
No,
Mother
sir.
Mary? And you weren't allowed to leave the prayer book?
No, sir.
And you went down to the chapel and prayed afterwards?
Yes, sir.
How long did you stay there?
An hour at least. Maybe more, because other people came in and saw us in there, and they had sick children, and they asked us what we were doing, and we said we were praying, and they came in and prayed with us for their children as well. So it was a whole group of us praying for sick children.
At some point before this incident at the hospital, had you given Maya a rosary or a medal or something like that?
I've probably given them... I pass out miraculous medals, which I carry with me.
There's going to be an objection here.
There you are. And she's a miraculous medal, and it has Mary on there, and it's on a chain, so you can wear it. And then there's a card that shows you the miraculous medal. It's a miracle that happened, and it explains, if I may, it's just real short.
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay.
What's the objection?
Let's wait for a question.
It's given to people
let's-
for...
Ma'am, let's put it down. Let's wait for a question.
All right.
That was
Is
the
this
objection.
something that you've given Maya in the past?
Yes.
Have you seen Maya recently?
Yes.
Does she still have it?
Not aware of that, but I can tell you what she said to me when I gave her a hug.
Please.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Yeah, that's sustained.
Um,
Really racking up the objections. I think
How
we've
did you know
doubled
when
what we
you
had
were
yesterday.
in the room there that you couldn't leave the Mother Mary statue?
We were told that we had to leave the room and take whatever was in the box out.
I heard your earlier testimony that no reason was given. Did they ever present you with some sort of list of who was allegedly allowed or not allowed in the hospital to see Maya?
No, sir.
The witness.
Ms. Cross.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I love your hat.
Thank you.
I just have a couple questions for you. Before, well, first of all, you, as you said, you live in the neighborhood, same neighborhood as the Kowalskis, correct?
Correct.
All right. And you talked about the first time you went to the house and you brought Mary, but they had company or they were leaving, so you did not stay and do the whole ritual, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then you had the second time when you went because Mrs. Kowalski had called you and you went there and she was very upset.
Correct.
All right. And almost incoherent.
I'm sorry?
Almost incoherent.
Yes. I mean, she got it out, but I had to physically be there with her.
Right, I understand. And it was after that visit that you went to the hospital, correct?
Correct.
All right. And when you went to the hospital, you don't recall checking in with security?
No, ma'am.
Or getting a name tag?
No, ma'am.
Right. And is it fair to say that you were unaware as to whether or not DCF, the Department of Children and Family Services, was requiring background checks for anybody who would be visiting Maya?
Objection.
Legal basis.
Facts, not evidence.
Overruled. You can answer.
That's not
Repeat
something
the
you were
question.
aware of, correct?
I was not aware of any of those facts, ma'am, no.
Right. You had no knowledge as to what restrictions there were or were not with respect to visitors for Maya, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, you would certainly understand that, well, I'll strike that. When you went to the hospital room, you were only in there briefly, correct?
Seconds.
Seconds. And you indicated that you saw Maya and she was sitting crisscross applesauce on the bed.
Mm-hmm.
She seemed happy to see you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. You gave her a big hug?
I did.
She hugged you back?
Yes.
That's right. And then you were told that you had to leave, correct?
Correct.
All right. And you said that there was some dark force. You're not talking about the room was dark. You felt some sort of
Yeah, it was like the
dark
devil was
energy.
behind me. We were the light coming in, and there was the devil behind me. It's what it was. It was dark. There's just
I love this.
the devil.
And then
That didn't go the way the defense wanted it to go.
you saw Maya in the Easter of 2020. You recall seeing her then?
That was during COVID, if I may ask the question. It's all those years sort of...
Yes, I'm just going by your deposition testimony you previously said. Do
Can you
recall seeing her
refresh
at
my
Easter?
memory?
Do you recall
I
seeing
do.
her at Easter?
Yes.
Okay. And your description was that she was walking like a beautiful, thriving young teenager when you saw her, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Whitney?
Did any of the nurses that entered the room tell you to go downstairs to get a badge? You missed the security desk or something like that?
No, sir.
Did any of them mention to you that these DCF background checks were being done on supervisors, but not just plain visitors?
No, sir.
Were you there as a spy, or were you there to give Maya hope?
I was there to give Maya hope.
Were you there as a spy,
No,
or you were
sir.
there to give Maya hope?
I was there to give Maya hope.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Ms. Crowell, anything further?
No.
Members of the jury, do any of you have a question?
So this may be different for people to see this level of religious involvement from this witness, but you've got to realize the family, Maya's family, was extremely religious, and this was somebody who worshipped probably in a very similar manner and participated in it at a similar level in religious activities, and so this to them would have been welcomed. It would have been normal. It would have possibly even been expected as you as when something is goes poorly in somebody's life, a parishioner's life within the church, that this sort of treatment would be extended to them. So we've got a jury question here. It looks like it might be quite an interesting one from the expressions of the everyone up at the bench on the sidebar. I believe they're Roman Catholic, is my understanding, Christy.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Question from the jury is, did the Dark Force people say they could not pray with Maya?
Yes.
Any follow-up, Mr. Whitney?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Crowells?
This looks bad on the hospital.
Yes.
A lot of times,
Ma'am, isn't it that you were there for a few seconds, they came in, and they told you that you had to leave, that you could not be there, correct?
Joyce was explaining to them that we were there to pray, and they said we could not do that.
They said you could not stay, correct?
We could not pray or stay.
That's
Members of the jury, are there any other questions?
the reason being most hospitals make allowances, if possible, for religious
Ms. Brown, you're free to go.
visitations.
Thank you.
Doesn't look good on the hospital there. They were trying to say that the hospital was just saying you couldn't be there under the rules. And coming out and asking her about that, she was just able to reaffirm. That's a lot of ass.
Okay, members of the jury, I'm going to go ahead and let you go for lunch here in a couple of moments. And Debbie Coley, I'm going to want them back ready to go. Let's call it at 1:30, so it's a little bit shorter than an hour and a half today, okay? Do not discuss this case amongst yourselves. Do not do any investigation and receive no information. Okay?
All right.
Free to go have a good lunch.
All right. Yeah, WD-40 for the gate. What's that called? That separates the gallery from the well. What's the? It's not a barn door. What's that called? Although it would be fun if there was a double, so you could like walk through like it's a saloon entrance. So yeah, that was I think that was a very powerful witness helping the.
Okay. The jury is out of our presence. Everyone feel free to sit. Are there any issues we need to address before we go on our lunch?
Yes, Your Honor. After lunch, we would like to publish the patient's statement of rights, which is admitted into evidence. We have an enlargement of it that is in color. It is the color off the internet. When it was produced to us, it was produced in black and white. And we wanted to use an enlarged version. It'll be up here, but I wanted to be able to point to things. And I think the objection is it's color, But the original one, if you go on the website, is color. So it's a demonstrative aid.
Actually, I don't object to the color, it's fine. But I do object to publishing that without any context. He's going to publish that, and he needs to publish the DCF orders that do in fact modify that. So that thing in and of itself lacks context and is a 403 issue.
Well, the
Meaning prejudicial,
patient's
not probative.
Code of conduct or bill of rights or whatever we're calling it is actually in evidence. Is that correct? Okay.
Party admission.
Does it have to be this afternoon, or can it be done at the same time as the other issues we were talking about at sidebar that I think we're going to have to hammer out tomorrow?
The reason we want to do it is the witness testifying about the ability to pray and practice religion. There is a specific provision in the Statement of Rights that says that they had the right to do that according to Johns Hopkins.
I would rather do it after we see how tomorrow shapes out and what we're going to be seeing.
I will represent, as an officer of the court, that there's nothing in those orders that contravenes the patient's Statement of Rights. The only thing in the orders that says on one order, I believe it's one, maybe two, I think it's just one order, it defers to the hospital for its procedures. These are its procedures. And so I really would like to publish it so they can see it. They just heard the testimony. They need to know the juxtaposition of what the patient, what the hospital promised them.
We can do it at another time, not this afternoon. Anything else?
Interesting ruling.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, why don't you all be back here? Do we need to come back earlier than 1:30, or is 1:30? Do you anticipate any issues? Because I asked the jury to be back here so that they're ready to go at 1:30.
There were a couple of exhibits. I understand Dr. Duncan is the next witness.
How much time do you all, so do you want to come back?
I don't know if they're planning, they listed them, but there were a couple of exhibits we were objecting to, not the reports, but some other exhibits.
I would imagine the issues would take 10 minutes or less.
So if we're back at 12:20, sorry, at 1:20, does that work? So everybody
Yes,
gets
Your
an hour? Okay, we'll be back at 1:20.
Okay, so we're going to be done with court for at least for a little bit. We're going to be an hour. We have an hour before judge comes back. So we'll be back in 55 minutes. Give us a 5-minute lead in. So I will say that yes, somebody had made a comment about the rites, religious rites are done by a priest. There are different religious observances that a patient may be able to participate in while they're in treatment. Although maybe what might be considered the last rites would typically be done by a priest. There are other things that can be done by fellow parishioners. I've myself have been and visited people at the request when they made a call to a church and said, "Will you send someone out?" And they asked me if I could go, and I was not the priest. I was not like the bishop of the church, but I've been able to go and participate that way to help and pray with someone who wanted it. So I believe that's broader than that. It shouldn't just be like members of clergy. I think it's a little broader than that, but. We'll see what the statement the statement that comes in. It's interesting the judge did not allow this display, which is in evidence, to be presented in front of the jury right now. Especially right at the time when we just heard the testimony that they were denied the ability to pray with Maya in the hospital. To have that set up and say, "Isn't this what your rule is?" That would be the most impactful for the plaintiff. But the judge says, not today. Not today. He doesn't want the two right next to each other. It is a strange judgment that we'll do it later, just not right now. All right. Defense could have been harder on her. I'm surprised. I don't know. I think her close connection to the family, her personal strong belief in what she does and what she is doing, her faith, as you would say, would make it would make it look like a very hard attack. And they could have. There are things they could have attacked her with. But in the one area where they tried to gain a little ground, when she said we were told we couldn't pray with her, when they're trying to say, actually, we just told you you couldn't stay here, and thus you couldn't pray, they lost ground, where she was able to reiterate, no, we told them we just wanted to pray, and they said, no, you can't do that, and you have to leave. And so it got worse. So they would have been better just saying no questions at that one. But very interesting testimony coming out here. You can see this is going to get spicy as this goes on. There are two sides to this story, and they're going to litigate every single point. All right, so we're going to take a lunch. I know Brandy is right now live still with Taylor Shabusiness. The sentencing's going on. They've got I think impact statements going on right now. The father. Shabusiness's father, I believe, was dragged out of jail and in cuffs and orange and sat on the stand and testified about something. Now they've got somebody else in a suit there. I don't know who it is. I'm just sort of watching and halfway trying to listen. But that's going on over lunch. We're going to be back in about 50 minutes or so. So 1:15 Eastern time. And then we'll continue. This is a jury trial, but it's a civil trial. So the worst thing that can happen to anyone is somebody has to pay out up to a lot of money. That's going to be the worst possible outcome for the hospital, to the tune of $200 million. This is no small amount. I believe that this family has previously sued I believe it was a doctor and CPS, the Child Protective Services, and won a settlement, probably that included a denial of any guilt, but that settlement was $2.5 million, and now they're suing the hospital for a lot more. So I appreciate everybody who's being so respectful in chat. I know this is a tough issue, especially as this broaches experiences that some of us or some of our family members have been through with varying degrees of success or attitudes toward the outcome or the process. So thank you so much for all being kind in chat that way. I appreciate that. We're going to keep saying this, but I'm not ready. Wait. There we go. Now I can see it. Grizzly's on right now with the Delphi K update. Oh man, that's a crazy one, Melissa. That is a crazy. The whole, what is it? Odinism, the pagan. I don't know what would they call it. It was some strange religious sacrifice that's involved supposedly. It seems pretty strange. It came out of nowhere. I would never have guessed that would be coming up in that trial. But wonderful. Grizzly's going to do a good job explaining that, whatever that is. So thank you. For those that are not able to join us after lunch, we just say tonight when you go home, please hug the people you love. Smile at someone, make their day just a little bit better. And please stay safe till we go live again in about 45 minutes, 48 minutes or so. This is in Florida, Creative Bee. Thank you, Debbie. Thanks for being here. It's in Florida. Anything else I can answer before we take a quick break? First in chat, as always, when we start up the new chat, is going to be the owner of the internet. So if you'd like that to be you, you'll have to be really quick on that refresh button and then type quickly. So I'll have that placeholder up within about 2 or 3 minutes after this live stream stops. So as soon as I disappear, if you're behind right now, make sure you're live, because as soon as I disappear, I'll be working on the next one, putting it up for you. All right, it was a teensy bit glitchy at times earlier, but in all, you've done a great job. Thanks. We'll miss your expertise. It was glitchy. We fixed that a little bit. I think we've got a better feed now, so we'll keep an eye on that. We'll see you guys in a little bit. Enjoy your lunch.
No, I'm not Peyton Ansley John Milton. I am the agent authorized to represent Peyton Ansley John Milton as written in all capital letters.
Scratch all that. Oh, that was terrible. I apologize.